Hungaroring for heat number 1 here in Austria. Over AMX 20 in towards the nicking out a curve, bumping and banging and into the wall. That is a horrible crash. That's a huge lunge from Tsukuba Circuit, and he's made contact with, I believe, wow, it's a chaotic moment here. No slipstream in front for either car, and you can just see Tsukuba pushing Formula Vee right over.
Here we go then, Valeri, he looks left, he looks right, he's going to choose the right hand side, which is the inside going into turn 3.
Here it is. This is the crucial moment in this race. And it's looking like it's only going one way. David Todt is going to take the race lead. Heading into the second half of the season, the Hungarian of David Todt has driven a masterclass here with the early pit stop. Not the ideal strategy, but an ideal race winner and an excellent performance.
Right there, Vic Miranda, Peter Zuma into the wall.
It's actually Valero. Valero's actually gone off into the barriers, coming up to the cutting.
David Todt making his way back up, has already climbed 7 positions.
Oh, I spoke too soon there. Sandy goes up.
So right now, this is going to be where it's going to get shaken up. David Todt passes them while they are in the pit through the mountain straight now, going 3 wide.
Oh my word, that is probably one of the best shows of the entire season.
So we have 3-way battle going to the most dangerous turn of the mountain. Up the mountain, we have contact right there. These guys going absolutely crazy. It's going to come down to the final corner, Murray's corner. Who is going to have to lead? We may have a drag race to the finish line on our hands, folks. You see David Todt right now going into the pit lane.
And a big good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome along to AMX. It's race 31 of the Season 5 Championship, and we are approximately 60 kilometers north of central Tokyo to a small little circuit known as Tsukuba. It is a circuit that has mostly become famous for its time trial and hill climbing events, but tonight we're going to race a fabulous little Formula Vee car around the fabulous 2.045 kilometer circuit. My name's Evan Dalton. It's a pleasure to be bringing you tonight's action, and alongside me is the man who you would have heard last night if you're watching AMX. It's Amir. Amir, how are you keeping? Seems like Amir is just muted.
Sorry about that. Yeah, thanks.
Have another go.
Yeah. Yep. Thanks for the intro there, Evan. Yeah, I'm really excited to be here, especially given the fact that it's a circuit that personally I have a bit of an affinity for because of growing up playing a certain PlayStation game with this circuit. And glad to see that in iRacing it is true to form, very accurate, and around this circuit, the cars that we're racing on is just going to be absolutely raceable.
Yes, we will hear more about Tsukuba from Amir later on, and more about the Gran Turismo game, which will probably both be fired for mentioning on an iRacing stream. But remember, if you want to check out more AMX action, you can do so at the social channels below. But we've got two fabulous races coming up for you this evening, so I don't know why you would be heading anywhere else. Qualifying is coming up soon from Tsukuba, but we do have to just hit you with a bit of housekeeping before we get there. This is, of course, the AMX Sim Racing World Championship Season 5. We started on May 25th and will be ending soon enough on August 18th. It is a fabulous season prize pool of over $15,000 and some fabulous next-level racing gear. We have the most races in the year and, as always, a fabulous variety of car and track combinations. This is the AMX Zero Championship. As you'll be aware, we have many different championships running simultaneously. So the format for this one is we have a 15-minute qualifier, then we have the top 15 reverse grid race for heat number 1. That's another 15 minutes. Then we do it all again. So the top 15 from heat number 1 will be reversed for heat number 2, and it's another 15 minutes. Single race qualifying. So via the AMX Discord or the website if you are racing tonight and yet to do so, and the balance is over $100 are paid out each month. We race both Saturday and Sunday, and you can race with us at any time by signing up at amxrace.com. The schedule then, of course, for AMX 5, and AMX 0 and AMX 20 is, as you can see on your screen, Saturdays and Sundays 5:50 p.m. and then 7:20 p.m. plus an extra hour if you are in Britain or Ireland, plus another 2 if you're in Europe, and then from there. But we have AMX 0 and AMX 20 tonight, of course. Yesterday we had 2 fabulous AMX 5 races. The next weekend we'll have another 2 AMX 5 races each day. Of course, a fabulous AMX Zero race prize pool for these drivers to race for. If you manage to take pole position in qualifying, you'll pick yourself up a nice $5 prize pool, and then 4, 3, 2, 175, 150, 125, 1, and then all the way down to 15th place, which is 25 cents. It's exactly the same for heat number 1 and for heat number 2, except you do get an extra $1 if you do pick up that extra fastest lap in both of the 2 heats. Total per race that you can pick up, the total per race that we are handing out, I should say, is a fabulous $73. And of course, the AMX 5 tier prize, the GT Elite Wheel Plate Edition, and the fabulous ERS 3 reclining seat. Next Level Racing providing the goods as per always. You can check them out on Next Level Racing at the link in our description as well, and on the amxrace.com. Some fabulous prizes, and we are very thankful to AMX, or to AMX, to Next Level Racing for their sponsorship throughout the championships. I'm going to hand it over to Amir then to take you through this fabulous Tsukuba circuit.
Yep, thanks a bunch there, Evan. And, well, what a circuit it is. You might say it's just a club circuit, but it's a club circuit that's famous around the world courtesy of the aforementioned PlayStation game Gran Turismo. And it has been pristinely captured here for iRacing, just outside Shimotsuma in Japan, opened in 1970, but has hosted a really big plethora of cars and bikes over the years. Yes, Superbikes race here around the small 2.045 kilometer circuit. They had Japanese F3, and the lap record here is currently still held by a Super Formula car driven by Kumi Kobayashi, about 44 seconds. So really fast, really frenetic, and really technical circuit here. So glad to see that we are racing at Tsukuba. And to cap it all off, a car that actually will fit the club circuit vibe, because after this, the car that we're racing on, the car class, is none other than the Formula Vee class, or to give it its full name, the Formula Volkswagen, a car that has also been around since around the same time, the 1970s too, as you can see by the old school design of it. 75 horsepower might be small in terms of that ratio, but it will still be quite a tricky car to drive, because as you can see, it's semi-slicks on these things, not full-on slicks that we see in Formula 3, Super Formula, IndyCar, and etc. Rear-wheel drive, 500 kilos, very light, very chuckable, and a manual gearbox. So if the drivers have H pattern, this might be advantageous for them, because you can actually really get a good driving feel for these cars here, Evan.
Yeah, the Formula Vee, a fabulous little machine. It's small, it might not be the quickest, but it can provide some fabulous racing, and it really suits a track like Tsukuba as well, of course. Tsukuba has 9 corners. It's definitely a car that is suited for this sort of racing. A personal connection with this car myself, because of course you probably know by now I'm Irish. This is actually the second highest class of single-seater racing available in the country, so it is a car that we'd often see. It's a car that you'll be seeing tonight for qualifying and for 2 heats, which we will be getting into shortly. But it can provide certainly some great racing around this Tsukuba circuit. The track that was established in 1966, but it didn't open until 1970. The track, funnily enough, was made to attract young people to motorsport. They didn't technically achieve that at the start, but they did then achieve it by putting it into video games such as Gran Turismo or simulators such as iRacing, and that's why we all love this Tsukuba circuit. But Amir, I think we're in for a good evening.
Absolutely, Evan, and the fact that it was hot on the heels of the fact Suzuka and Fuji took off. There's a reason why Tsukuba was made here, and plus it's near a metropolitan area, Tokyo not being that far away, is why it maintains such popularity over the years. And I was about to go to the Irish part of your stat there. Mondello Park, isn't it?
Yes, I live about 5 minutes away from it. It's brilliant. But that is extreme, what did the cool kid say, wheel knowledge from you, because not a lot of people in Ireland even know that circuit, let alone people from foreign lands. But yeah, Mondello Park, home of the Leinster Trophy. It's in a couple of weeks' time in these fabulous Formula V's. But that's matters not here tonight, because this is the pinnacle of the Formula V's here in AMX, is this Tsukuba circuit. Currently quickest in qualifying is a name that you'll recognise if you're an AMX fan. It is Simon de Mori who is quickest out of Gaston Kilhavy. Ralph Benitez currently in third, with Diogo Villarreal in fourth, and it is Ayrton Reutemann still takes the biscuit for me for best racing driver name, ahead of Evandro Dantas in sixth. Then it is Jared Sardeni Jr. in seventh, ahead of Ruben Lorente Jr. in eighth, and it is David Pierre, and I'm seeing on my time screen Michael de Mori in 10th. So there's not just one de Mori, there's now 2. Double trouble here tonight.
Absolutely, let's hope we don't get confused by that. Plus they run exactly the same numbers, 5 and 6 side by side, so that might be a bit of a troublesome thing for us. And speaking of Ayrton Reutemann, can you imagine being named after one a world champion, one a nearly world champion, turned into a politician?
I'm not sure if someone was messing with us in the stream chat in the last AMX 20 race, but seemingly he is actually a relation of Carlos Reutemann, which I don't know how true that is, but someone said it in the stream chat anyways. They could have well just been fooling me, but that is a very, very cool connection. Bit of a spin there we are seeing. Looking now at the 43 of Ralph Benitez. These cars probably look like the most unsafe single-seaters known to man, but there's definitely some sort of safety features in them. But they're very much taking the definition of open wheels and running with it.
Yeah, literally. And when you talk about open wheels, you also have to talk about the fact that they can interlock. So we have seen in seasons past that the cars, there we go, just as I said, someone said there was going to be some wheel locking, and they're not just talking about cars locking up under braking, they're literally talking about wheels connecting with each other and flying into the stratosphere, which has happened in the past as well. So let's hope, knock on wood, it doesn't happen tonight. And interesting enough, someone pointed out, thanks for the Twitch comments there as well, he's actually using motion controls.
Yeah. And he sat beside his fridge. That's the weirdest sim racing setup I've potentially ever seen, especially for iRacing. But it's an easy enough track. You don't necessarily need a fancy Fanatec to get a lap in around the Tsukuba Circuit. You certainly don't need a... Well, actually, no, you do definitely need an X-Level Racing Simulator. You can check that out, thanks to our partners. But yeah, we've seen VR headsets. We've seen people flexing their fancy watches. I think this could be the first time we've seen someone using a controller.
Or showing off how big their fridge is because it's literally double doors.
Yeah, you could fit a lot of food in that. That's a really nice piece of work. But back to qualifying, nonetheless, more important matters. 11 minutes out of the 15 have been completed, and it is currently Simon Mori who is quickest by under a tenth of a second. And of this man, Ralph Benitez, there's the fancy simulators that we're well used to. Ralph Benitez showcasing his triple monitor setup. Just taking a bit of a curve there for the final corner on turn number 9 and running down towards turn number 1. This is not the longest straight on the circuit. That's the run from turn number 8 to turn number 9. It's almost a 180-degree right-hander in towards turn number 2, which is a quick flick to the left and then a quick flick to the right. 4 left-handers and 5 right-handers on this Tsukuba Circuit. Then again, 2 hairpins in towards the left-hander. That could be a potential dive bombing opportunity for the drivers, but there is one more coming up just here. If you were on a motorcycle, you'd be heading to the right there to take that extra chicane, but we do use the circuit car layout and has been designed and is the original layout here at Tsukuba in towards a final deep hairpin. You want to try and get through this hairpin by just using the brakes as much as you can. You'll see drivers flicking the car in through here. These Formula Vees, they drive slightly different. They're very light, so you can get the 4-cylinder Volkswagen engine around the corners fairly quickly. 4-speed manual gearbox in these machines, of course, rather than what we're used to with your 6-speed sequentials that we will see later. But Diogo Villarreal is going to jump to the top here, not Ralph Benitez, who we are looking at. So Simon de Mori has just been pipped here in the final stages.
Wow, well, when we say final stages, there's still about 8 minutes to go, and on a short circuit with a lap being just over a minute, we can still actually get some times tumbling. But Villarreal, after yesterday's mares, he's actually trying to go on the right foot here today. Fastest time so far, but just only by 300 in front of Simon de Mori. So let's see what's going to happen here towards the end of qualifying, as a couple of people have pointed out what happened to a certain Max Verstappen in Hungary today. Well, let's not beat around the bush. That was actually quite a spectacular accident.
Yeah, spectacular race in Hungary, and it wasn't even the best race of the day. We've got GTPs from the Hungaroring coming up later here this evening. That's going to be a barnstormer for 2 AMX 20 races. Yeah, make sure you stick around for that one, folks. But there is a minute and 20 to go here in qualifying, and Simon de Mori is pushing in some final times to try and take that pole position. Wow, he really is concentrating. Just looking at the timing screens now for him, he's not necessarily lighting up the times. He actually did his best lap on his last lap, but it still wasn't enough to beat Diogo Villarreal. So he's back out on track and trying to push through this final turn 9 to take or to retake pole position from Diogo Villarreal, but he's not lining up the sector times. He's he's way wide heading through there. I'm not sure if you'd pick up a 1x in the races, but Simon de Mori is certainly going to try. He won't get another lap in, unfortunately, and it's all pointing towards a Diogo Villarreal pole position.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Michael de Mori will be actually out on track. He's still in pit lane. But yeah, Villarreal here looking really, really good right now with his time here. But as I said, short circuit, cars are on track. It will get frenetic. The times will tumble once the track will grip up ever so slightly. As we're back with Villarreal now, he's got a bit of slipstream here. Surely this must be a point for him to improve behind a car that's actually smoking, incidentally. So I hope that's not engine failure. Coming through the long parabolic turn 9 onto the start-finish straight. Would this be an improvement for Villarreal? The answer is, well, no, but he gave us a piece to the camera.
He did. He gave us some drama in the dying seconds, but no improvement there, unfortunately, for Diogo Villarreal. But he didn't need to find one. Still quickest in qualifying. He will have decided to back, though, because all drivers will be reversed in this one, because we do have less than 15. We'll have Michael de Mori, actually, who will be starting on the pole. But fan favourite is Diogo at the best of times. He is quickest here in qualifying.
Yep, by about less than 300 of a second in front of Demori. There we go. Numero uno, he's showing on the camera right now in front of Simon Demori. Ralph Benitez, that's the Brazilians after yesterday's domination that he had with his country in P3. Kulhavi 4th, Dantas 5 with Reutemann in 6th, so that's an interesting third row. In front of Sardini, Lorente, Pereira, and Demori, who did not set the time, but surely we might see him in the races here. But Evan, look at that. First, all the way to the guy that set the lap time, just under a second. This is going to be one heck of a barn burner.
Yeah, it is. There's no extreme pace advantage from those coming from the back, and some of those drivers didn't even get proper times in. But Diogo Villarreal, he likes to succeed in AMX's lowest tier. Of course, he was the overall winner of AMX 1 last season in Season 4, picking up just under $200. Well, he's picked up an extra 6 here in his Season 5 prize pool, but didn't actually take any wins last season. He was just consistent over the course of the season, and that is why he managed to pick up that evening win, or sorry, to pick up the season win, I should say. I believe it is going to be a standing start here from Tsukuba in traditional Formula Vee fashion. It will be, and I tell you what, folks, you're going to want to stick around for this one.
Yep.
We can see
Revs are rising.
up now.
We're going to get really good here.
As we go racing in Japan, it's a great launch from pretty much all around the field, but it will be Michael Demori who leads in to the first corner. Sorry, it'll be Ruben Lorente. Michael not actually making the race start. Pereira trying it round the outside as well, but Ruben Lorente Jr. has got away successfully, and he leads the opening lap here. There is someone struggling behind. I believe that is Michael Demori. That's not, or is it actually Diogo Villarreal? I think it could be the quickest in qualifying, who's having some struggles here. Reutemann, big dive down the inside, getting a good getaway.
Oh, that's a disaster then for Villarreal. He's already got punted off at the start, so that wasn't probably the best of moments that he would have wanted, but it's still a long race here, and when you say long, because it's 14 laps, so he can still make up for it as the gaps are still very close from one car to another. There's on the inside goes, but it looks like Demori on Sardini, they're going to go side by side on the back straight here, so if these guys start battling hard, we might still see Villarreal in this fight here, Evan.
Yes, here comes Ayrton Reutemann going for the race lead on Ruben Lorente. We see Simon Demori trying to attack Gerard Sardini Jr. as well, but Ayrton Reutemann did get the run initially, but tucking back into the slipstream was Ruben Lorente Jr. and he got a fabulous run down in towards the first corner. Side by side they go. Reutemann just ahead for the time being. Gaston Gilhavy looking to put his front nose into the mix here. And you can see how close it is coming up towards the S's of turn 2 and turn 3 in towards the turn 4 hairpin. Will there be a dive for Ruben Lorente? There won't. There's a bit of a dive in the background, I believe, from Simon Demori, who has got ahead of Gerard Sardini Jr. now, but this is action-packed here. We've already got 2 of the 14 laps down. Diogo Villarreal is still in the mix here. He's not totally out of this one, just 3.4 behind the field.
And again, as I said earlier, if any of these cars were actually to come a cropper with each other, Villarreal can just come pick up pieces. So we'll keep an eye out with his progress. He's not that far behind, though his progress is a bit slow at this point. As now onto that back straight, Reutemann's trying to break the toe here from Lorente. Lorente tries to dive on the inside, but can get through. He's going to try a bit of bomb drafting onto the rear gearbox of Reutemann, but Reutemann holds firm, still holds on to it. And this is the sort of racing we get to see, especially in Formula Vee and Formula 4 incidentally that we saw yesterday at Lebanon. It's just close action all the way, because look at that. It's no wings, no aero. All the drivers here are just going full pelt here, Evan.
Yes, they are, and that's Ruben Lorente, who is up into the race lead ahead of Ayrton Reutemann, but they are side by side down towards the turn 4 hairpin. It's Ruben Lorente on the outside, Ayrton Reutemann on the inside in the yellow. Gaston Gilhavy is going to try sneak up the inside as well, but that's a great run. Oh, there's contact, and there's 2 cars gone over. Exiting turn number 4, it's 2 of your race leaders. It is Gaston Gilhavy and Ruben Lorente. Gilhavy has had the front of his pencil livery sharpened a little bit of damage on board that car. Ayrton Reutemann now with a comfortable 1.1 second lead, just tripping over each other on the exit of one of the important corners here at Tsukuba.
And didn't I say earlier that the wheels can lock, and that's exactly what happened between Lorente and Gilhavy. They just locked wheels and the car went skywards. Luckily though, mercifully, for Lorente, he still managed to keep going, though his car might just be slightly superficially damaged. But for Gilhavy, you can see there, he just literally went for the escape button and is just going to wait it out until the next race. As now, Laurenti also has entered the pit, so maybe the damage is more terminal than we expected.
Yeah, disappointing. We're down to 7 runners. Let's have a look at the picture-in-picture. This is Ruben Lorente Jr. and Gaston Colhavi, and you can see bump over one goes, and then that causes the other to bounce. And then physics kind of just broke for a second, but look, that's not the most unexpected thing when it comes to racing simulators. Both cars, though, unfortunately, are down and out of this one, and there'll be no big prizes for them in heat number 1 of AMX 0 here on race night 31. That leaves it up to Ayrton Reutemann and Simon de Mori to fight it out here. One thing I've noticed was, even though Ayrton had that big gap, the catching pack were able to catch quite quickly. It seems like a sole leader will not really be the way to go here.
Certainly, and given the fact that it's easy to have the slipstream come back to you because, you know, it's all about mechanical grip through with these cars, and no aero wash as opposed to winged cars is easier to follow, so that's why being the leader may not be so advantageous compared to other forms of single-seater racing. Reutemann may just need to watch his mirrors, as we saw yesterday as well in the Formula Ford 1600 races. That was the case. Being the leader is not the best place to be. Somebody behind can still come up to you if you were to make a mistake, and Reutemann there locked up big time.
Yeah, slipstream as well, just like the Formula Fords, will be powerful enough here in these Formula V's. So it'll be something these drivers will be looking to utilise. One thing I've seen in previous races in Formula Fords, it was a bit of bump drafting. These Formula V's, I don't think you can do it as much, but would be interesting to see. Will any of the drivers get a little bit of creative with something like that? Simon de Mori's got to get creative if he wants to get past Ayrton Reutemann, however. This is down in towards the final corner. He's going to go for the inside line on the South American, and you can see de Mori there on your picture-in-picture, laser focused. Down the inside goes the white, black and blue Formula V of Simon de Mori, and he'll take the race lead. Reutemann may not have a problem with that necessarily, because they'll have plenty of chances towards the end of this race. Immediately trying to regain that, going for the outside line. It's opportunistic from Simon de Mori, or sorry, from Ayrton Reutemann, I should say. He's going to try and hang it around the outside. De Mori's got a good run through there, and Reutemann will have to stay behind. That's excellent defending from the Austrian.
Yep, and he just places the car in the middle of the road. But again, with the way that these cars are that can be driven, you can actually take as many lines as you can, still be fine, because you just carry the momentum through. And that was almost akin to how James Hunt and Mario Andretti had their battle in 77 at Zandvoort. But in this particular case, it was a much happier ending compared to the both of them, as we can see two views for this particular action. Mori and Reutemann still going at it, but it looks as though for the time being, the Mori has the upper hand on Reutemann, but for how long?
Yeah, minimum speed's very important in these machines, as it looks like the front... Oh no, sorry. I was going to say it looks like the front nose was chopped off to Mori's car, but he just has it painted in matte black, so you can't actually see it from that camera angle. It's a little bit wide from Simon de Mori, though, so Reutemann is looking to try and pounce down the inside in towards the first corner. Halfway through the race now, lap 7 of 14, and Simon de Mori is going to just hang this one the long way around the outside. No issues whatsoever. That's a prime example of, if you keep the speed up, take whatever line you want, and Lewis point being proved perfectly. Simon de Mori, though, goes defensive, still doesn't want to give up that inside line to Ayrton Reutemann, and Reutemann, running a little bit wide, has invited Ralph Benitez in towards this fight, number 43. You can see there, just on the outside of the yellow, just didn't have good enough of an exit. Also, probably didn't want to tangle up in an incident like we saw Ruben Lorente Jr. do earlier. So he's going to just stick behind for the time being. Still plenty of opportunities left in this race.
Yeah, with half the race gone and half the race to go here, it flies by so quickly, but at the same time, it still feels quite long because of the number of laps that we need to complete. As we can see the speed traps here, well, it's all pretty much even Stevens, because again, if you're in that draft, you can easily maintain the same speed as the guy in front of you. As coming up now to the final corner, it looks as though it's a side-by-side battle between Sardini and Benitez. I don't know where Sardini came from there. He just got a better run compared to Benitez. Coming out to turn 1, can he make it stick? But no, they're still going at it side by side. And again, the way that these cars can be driven, you can take any line and still carry that minimum speed around. Benitez, though, manages to hold on to it just for the time being.
Yeah, Sardini was 0.2 of a second quicker on the last lap than Ralph Benitez. That might have been due to Benitez just looking for that overtake on Reutemann in front and getting himself distracted, but he's got to get the head down now and try not to lose open placing. First two hits in the Formula V's around Tsukuba. You can see Gervais still pressuring the group in front. not really a threat from behind in the form of Ivanto Dantas, but we saw how Saudeni caught up to the top. So Dark could well do that one as well. It is currently Simon Demori, though, who still has that lead ahead of Erden Reutemann. Ralph Benitez in third, then it is Gerard Saudeni, Evandro Dantas, then we have Pereira, Villarreal, Colhavi. Fortunately, Ruben Lorente Jr. and Michael Demori not in this race for the time being, but still available. So we have Colhavi and Villarreal still pounding the pavement and keeping the fastest laps in. Demori looking comfortable up the front, but it was a quicker last lap for Erden Reutemann.
Yeah, by just a 1/10 of a second though, but again, it helps that he is still in that slipstream. And 4 cars within earshot of each other, so that will be interesting to see. Sarani being the one lining up the rear on board with Benitez. We can see that's a new feature for this season. 4 drivers in one cam. We can see the steely look on every one of them as they try to chase after the leader. Then it is intense racing. It's white knuckle because without the aerodynamic outwash that we have normally with other single seaters, these cars are so easy to follow, but the intensity goes through almost throughout the entire race.
Yeah, you cannot take your eyes off for a moment in these machines. Concentration levels at an all-time high. That's your top 4 from top to bottom. Simon Demori, then it's Erden Reutemann, Ralph Benitez and Gerard Saudeni, all looking laser focused, all driving to pretty much identical laps, give or take a few tenths of a second. You can see Ralph Benitez looks like he's going to be the closest to pounce. Is there going to be a move down the inside on Reutemann? No. Maybe now just starting to think long run and just starting to wait for the end of the race. They know now how to drive these cars. They know where the opportunities will arise. They're all very much on equal pace. So it's got to be driver skill, driver overtaking abilities that will separate these top 4. And that will hand out the prizes. There you can see Reutemann versus Benitez. And you can't really tell who's going to take this one. Still so close.
Indeed, and if you were to be betting on this, you might just end up losing or gaining cash by the bucket loads because it could swing at any time at this point. And for Dantas, for example, he's the one that's actually the 5th driver in this particular battle. Yes, he's 1.5 seconds behind. He's just watching brief. In case something were to happen between the front 4, he will definitely pick that pieces up big time and just go lapping all the way to the bank. But for the time being, though, he just needs to eke out a bit more lap time so that he could just stay within earshot of these guys and hope for the best when the chips start to fall.
On board with Ralph Benitez, just pushing his 4-cylinder air-cooled Volkswagen engine to the absolute maximum here in the 11th lap of proceedings, trying to get every ounce of horsepower out of it so he can overtake the speedy Erden Reutemann in front. But Reutemann starting to pressure Simon Demori, starting to take different lines and take creative endeavours in through the corner, so Demori might be feeling the pressure at time. Benitez just clipping that curb on the outside, but no drama, no biggie there, and he is trying to make the move. Someone there saying, no way I'm betting on AMX 0, too unpredictable. Yeah, I wouldn't advise that, because if AMX 0 has shown us one thing in the past, is it's not over until every driver has crossed that checkered flag.
Amen to that one, especially given the fact that what we saw already today, that we had a couple of race-winning contenders taking themselves out early. Who knows what will happen in the final 3 laps that we have here. It's still so intense as because how much they have to push every single lap. And yes, those engines are from a Volkswagen Vito, incidentally, because first generation Vito they use, it's been the same engine but tuned by Spice, the same guys that also tuned the Formula 3 engines in the Dallara F317s that they are using here, but lesser power. Still though, who cares about the power? It's actually the raceability of these cars that really sells the bits.
Yeah, they're an entertainment car, if there can be such a thing. They're certainly not going to break the bounds of engineering, but they might just provide you with that ultimate bit of racing entertainment, and these guys are doing it here so tonight. But we'd like a battle on our hands, and it looks like we're going to get one. Ralph Benitez right close to Erden Reutemann. He's just starting to maybe get a little bit frustrated, sat behind that yellow and black Formula Vee in front of him. He doesn't want to make any silly mistakes, though, as that invites Gerard Saudeni right back into proceedings. Simon Demori doing a great job at the front of the grid, but again, cannot make any mistakes, otherwise you'll have a whole bunch of drivers looking to try and swoop past him and take the big prize money in this evening's AMX 0 heat number 1. Penultimate lap then of heat number 1, race 31 for the AMX 0 championship. and it's all just status quo for the time being, but it seems like things are going to change soon.
Well, as the old adage goes, so much things change, but still they stay the same. And at this point in time, it's still pretty much even Stevens up in front. Nothing much is gonna give way unless, of course, someone enters the go gear and just start putting the moves in the final couple of laps. This is really, as you can see the bottom there, intense racing, and you don't know how it's gonna go. In fact, maybe Benitez might just start to break rank and go for it here.
He did. He looked down the inside, and that has actually cost him a little bit because he had a bit of a slide out of the corner. That's going to allow Gerard Sarteni Jr. up the inside in towards turn number 9. The race is building in a crescendo, and the intensity is starting to overboil. But Ralph Benitez does manage to survive for some reason. Sarteni backed out of that one. He's gone for exit over entrance, and that's worked out nicely in his favour. He's got a much better run for the exit of turn number 9 than Ralph Benitez in front. The white flag waves, but these drivers are not giving up. Sarteni, one stand podium placing ahead of Ralph Benitez. It seems like Demori might just be okay up at the front. 0.3 of a second separating those two on this occasion, and Ethan Reutemann just not able to launch one down the inside into one of the best overtaking opportunities on this Tsukuba circuit. Demori has to just defend with his life here, just needs to pray that this engine does not give up on the run down towards turn number 8 and on the run through turn number 9. Reutemann, I don't think he's close enough on this occasion. He's going to have to be very brave on the brakes. Demori goes defensive nonetheless. He's going to just run in towards the middle of the camber of the corner, and he will get out of it okay. I think Simon Demori is going to end up winning this race with no worries at all. And it seems like, despite them getting so close for so many laps, the top 4 will remain as it is. Although Reutemann has actually got a good run, Demori can't just sit back and watch, and he will be okay. Simon Demori is going to take the win here.
Oh, fantastic bit of defending at the end there. He knew that Reutemann was going to dive on the inside, but he defended just enough. Not much dirty tactics there to hold on to the win in front of Reutemann. Benitez, your podium, with Sarteni in 4th place. He didn't actually get much out of Benitez out of that. Then Dantas, David Pereira, our controller player, managed to finish in P6. Can you imagine that? He managed to replicate what Max Verstappen did in Daytona at the start of the season. But overall, a very entertaining race. Start to finish, may not have the biggest excitement with what takes at the last lap, but nonetheless, it's been a white knuckle ride for those involved, and we will see more of the same here in heat number 2, Evan.
Yes, hopefully a few more overtakes in heat number 2 for those at home, but still, that was an intense race nonetheless. And your BenQ session winner, of course, will be Simon Demori, who takes the win by 0.2 of a second over Ethan Reutemann in 2nd. Ralph Benitez in 3rd, ahead of Gerard Sarteni Jr. 4th, and it was Evandro Dantas in 5th with David Pereira in 6th. Diogo Villarreal takes 7th after taking pole position. Was reverse grid, of course, but he was the quickest in qualifying. He'll have a good starting spot for heat number 2. Then it was Gaston Kilhavy in 8th, Ruben Lorente Jr. in 9th, and then the non-starter was Michael Demori, so he classifies in 10th. Nice little prize there for Simon Demori. Unfortunately, he's rewarded with a back of the grid start for heat 2.
Well, I think it might be a D grade for what could be a better reward if he can start on pole, but nonetheless, he is going to have the rest of the field to have fun with in heat number 2 here, Evan.
Green flag, green flag.
Here we go then, we go racing in Tsukuba for the final time tonight, and that's a great launch by the 3rd place man of Gaston Kilhavy, I should say. And you can see down towards the first corner, Ruben Lorente already defending. Evandro Dantas has to defend as well. Lorente and Kilhavy side by side on the exit of the first corner. There is a car gone round there in the background. That is Gerard Sarteni, who unfortunately will not be in this race win fight for the rest of it. It's Kilhavy on the inside, it's Lorente on the outside, and there's a problem there for, I believe it is Pereira, who has spun around as well as Evandro Dantas, and gotta hold the brakes. Gaston Kilhavy has gone round 2. A very dramatic opening lap.
Oh wow, we thought Kilhavy was going to make amends after that disappointment he had in the first heat, though that will have been put to bed right now because he's spun around quickly. But again, the gap's still close between the guys in front. Maybe he can still recover because the top 5 here, if they start battling each other, he can still have at least half a chance. Because look at that, see, he can still see the top 5 in his sights.
From back to front on the opening lap. Simon Demori unbelievably takes the lead here in heat number 2 at Tsukuba. He started in 10th, he's up to 1st from the end of the first lap, but he's under major pressure from Ralph Benitez, who's trying it round the outside. The up and under, is that potentially successful? No, has to just park in behind the Austrian, who parked it on the apex himself. In the battle for 3rd, it is Ruben Lorente and Diogo Villarreal. Villarreal is looking to make amends from that opening race incident, trying to dive down the inside. Here is this Dantas Pereira incident, heading in towards turn number 4 in your picture-in-picture, and you can see that's what caused 2 of the front runners to go spinning out of this race. But Demori, wow, incredible start, as was for Ralph Benitez too. He's up 6 positions to 2nd.
Amazing there as well, that both of them have really shown that they've gotten a good handle of these cars around this circuit. And no surprises that, again, they're up in the podium positions, as Lorente, though, really had to be committed to try and defend on that one, because Villarreal was up on the inside, and he's still on the inside here. Side by side they come into turn number 9. Can it come through here cleanly, as here comes Reutemann in between all of them. It's a three-way battle for P3, while the top 2 are making beeline for it.
Yes, you can see Villarreal looking to try and make a spot. Oh, that's very defensive in towards the first corner from Diogo Villarreal, but he has to take those defensive lines if he wants to keep this speedy Ethan Reutemann right behind. A great season so far for Ethan Reutemann in this AMX 0 Championship. He's currently the overall leader and looking to extend that gap over Gael Valero, who's not here this evening. But Ralph Benitez is the car in, or sorry, I should say Diogo Villarreal is the car in his way. Ralph Benitez a little bit up the road and fencing with Simon Demori. Here's the Gaston Colhavi incident in your picture-in-picture. Amir, what do we make of this one?
Well, it's again that wheel locking thing that we talked about earlier. It's happened to Kulhabi this time, and amazingly, he's still in the race despite the major flip. And luckily, the pencil nose didn't get taken off here. Otherwise, he has to sharpen that one. Though, unfortunately, he will have to make up a lot of time after that particular incident. You can see there, he is right at the back, and you can see now the pencil. Unfortunately, it has been de-sharpened. It has to get back up to the sharp end.
Yes, and 4 marks made on this race by Gaston Colhavi have been erased, and he's been sent down at the back of the grid. I'm liking this pencil livery. There's a lot of content in here for pencil jokes. But back to the actual racing action. This is Ruben Lorente Jr., who's currently complaining while driving, currently having a rant at his monitor while driving one-handed through turn 2 and 3 at Tsukuba. Creative, I like it.
Well, if he was Italian, he would be doing that hand gesture, which is called chevoy, into that. Oh! Well, that's a first. He literally is not pleased with the way that Diogo Valero is driving, or maybe he's not happy with the way that the car is performing. But if it is, that is road rage to the max.
He's checking the time as well. There is not a care in the world in the man in 5th place, and I tell you what, he's pumping in good lap times while doing it as well. He was actually 2/10 of a second a lap quicker than Villarreal on the last lap, but he was a furious Spaniard on board the number 10 Formula Vee machine, and you can see I don't think he's done one corner with 2 hands on the wheel in the last couple of laps. On the opposite, in the opponent camp, Villarreal is trying his best to stay in front here. He's pushing, he's making sure that he's not losing 4th place. Someone asking, but why? We've no idea. But Ruben Lorente is doing Ruben Lorente things.
Well, I think after what happened in the Euros, he's still probably hungover from that one. Really, just G'd up, very passionate to get into this race.
I was in Spain for that. They were all very passionate, and there was a lot of hand gestures, just like Ruben Lorente is doing as well. So we will get back to the battle up the front with less furious racing drivers potentially, in the form of Simon Demori, who always looks calm and composed, and Ralph Benitez in 2nd, Ethan Reutemann in 3rd. But it was a 4-horse race in the last heat, looking like it's going to be a 2-horse race here.
Yep, in this particular case, it's still a couple of the protagonists that we saw just now in there, and it shows that, again, Demori and Benitez are just those guys who really had a good handle on these cars and on this track combination. It's just, look at that, the way that they glide through the corners. It was pretty much picture perfect of how you want to do it. It's just a wide entry, then get a late apex, cut across the circuit, and just get back on the throttle quickly, because the way these cars handle, it's just that you need to get back. It's just a point and squirt car. You just have to get back on the throttle quickly to preserve that minimum speed and carry it through next few corners just to preserve lap time.
Ralph Benitez actually went purple on that last lap, setting the fastest lap of the race. And you can see the pressure just starting to build on Simon Demore. Benitez looks the quicker of the two for the time being, but of course he has the Heat 1 winner in front of him in the form of Demore, so he knows that there's work to do, and he's going to have to be creative if he wants to get this overtake on the Austrian. And you can see Simon Demore just taking that defensive line that we saw he did so many times against Ayrton Reutemann in heat number 1, but Benitez does just seem to be getting the better exits out of the corners. It's just not enough. If you were sat in Benitez's seat, Amir, what would you be thinking here? Where are you going to go for the move?
Ooh, good question there, Evan, because again, especially with the guy in front being so evenly matched, I would have to fall back on what Julian said yesterday during our broadcast in Lebanon for the Formula 1600. Go averse to what he's doing, and that is exactly what he's doing right now. Pick different lines so that you don't have to be as predictable as the guy in front. Just try to spook him a bit and get the advantage as you can. As you can see, Benitez is actually right alongside, coming through turn number 5, but no way through just yet because Demore had a better exit out of there and just carried the momentum through.
Defensive line from Demore. Benitez has to work around the outside, and you can see there just has to straighten up the steering to avoid a collision, but it's a poor exit from Simon Demore. He's bogged down on the exit of turn number 8, and that's going to allow Ralph Benitez to take the race lead here. The Brazilian is up and ahead for the first time in heat number 2. Simon Demore went defensive as per usual, but Ralph Benitez had another couple tricks up his sleeves to get ahead, and now Simon Demore is going to try and pounce back in towards the first corner. He's won one heat tonight, doesn't want to end it at that, and wants to win a second one. There's got to be a big lunge down the inside from Simon Demore. Benitez knows this, has to take a more defensive approach, but the middle line is a good one in turn 1 at Tsukuba, and they'll run side by side through the S's. Ralph Benitez just edges ahead for the time being. The corner where he started to make this move on the last lap is going to be the corner where he ends it on this one.
But again, because of the both of them battling, you can see Reutemann, Villarreal and Lorente actually are coming into the battle as well. So what was a duo is going to become a quintet up in front here, with Benitez holding on to the key to the front. But for how long? Because Demore may not be so happy with the fact that he just probably missed the gear or not enough momentum coming out of there. You can see the inset, we saw how it happened the previous lap this time by both of them were side by side, but they're going at it side by side here, Evan.
A slipstream weave from Benitez forces Demore the long way around the outside, and Simon Demore usually prefers the inside line through this corner. This is the last corner at Tsukuba, of course, but now he can tuck back into the slipstream of the number 43 in front and potentially make a move on Ralph Benitez. Demore outside line he has been given, that's the one he shall take. Needs to be careful not to let Ayrton Reutemann dive down the inside, because Demore is very wide, and that has invited Reutemann right back into this one. Benitez just about in front of Simon. Ayrton Reutemann is going to try and slingshot his way around the outside of Simon Demore. Demore is boxed in and in a precarious position here, but he does stay ahead for the time being. Guess what's back, folks? It's a 4-car fight for the race lead in AMX 0.
Indeed, and you can see bang on cue a 4-cam of all the drivers involved here. Once again, the look of intensity on these guys' faces is something to behold because of how you have to push every single lap, because these cars, there's no room for respite. Every single corner you might just have someone behind you. Look at that, there it is again. Demore and Benitez are going side by side.
Look at this, wheel banging on the straight down towards turn number 9. It's 3 wide into the final corner here at Tsukuba, and it's going to be Simon Demore who comes out on top. Ayrton Reutemann decided he wanted a piece of it. Unfortunately, he didn't gain any positions, but he's got a good run on Ralph Benitez. Demore going defensive in towards the first corner. Reutemann's made a big mistake. This is going to allow Diogo Villarreal to slide down the inside. The man we're riding on board with is now up to 3rd place, and Ayrton Reutemann has to put his tail between his legs there a little bit, because he was the one who gave up that position with a big lock up in towards the first corner. Demore is all over the track trying to defend his position from the speedy Ralph Benitez right behind. This is the battling we expected in the last heat. It's what we're getting now.
Whoa, absolutely. And hopefully we can get another final lap slugfest, especially with overtaking involved here, as Demore is still going defensive against Benitez, who's also going defensive against Reutemann. Villarreal likewise will start looking in his mirrors because Lorente is now involved. So it is a quintuplet up in front here, but how are they going to finish? It's up for grabs for anyone who could actually just muster up the speed and try to overtake.
Reutemann trying to do that, going for the outside on Ralph Benitez in through the final corner. Seems like Demori has got a little bit up the road now from Ralph Benitez due to all this squabbling behind, but Benitez is going defensively, not going to give this position up easy. Reutemann is going to have to work from it, and it seems like once Reutemann gets on that outside line, he's not able to carry the momentum round like we've seen Demori and Benitez do in the past in this race. He's just struggling a tad on that opposite line, has to take the inside line through the hairpins, which is the quicker line in theory, but you can hang it around the outside with some ease compared to other racing circuits here at Tsukuba. It does promote that sort of racing. It's a small enough circuit, but it has a fabulous 32 pit boxes along that main straight. They're used to a lot of cars fighting in very close proximity, just like we're getting tonight.
Absolutely, and given the fact that some parts of the circuit is just very on camber, so it does encourage drivers to go on the high line as opposed to being just finding line on the apex, and you can still hang it there to do it. And we've seen it already a couple of times through turn one, drivers trying to go through and just hang it out there to get the inside line for the next corner. It might be on Benitez's mind this time, because if he hangs it around the outside here, letting Reutemann through, he might just do it. But no, he actually goes on the inside, goes defensive, and does exactly what he needs to do to prevent Reutemann overtaking. But he will leave himself defenseless because he is having a slow run out of that first turn. He just will start having to defend throughout the entire circuit now, Evan.
Yeah, Benitez inside, Reutemann outside once again, and the theme remains the same. It is unfortunately unsuccessful for Reutemann, so he's got to get creative. He's got to try and get himself on that inside line in the final couple of laps of the AMX 0 evening. You can see a little bit wide there from Diogo Villarreal in the background. It's all boding nicely for Simon Demori. Once he made that move past Ralph Benitez, he has been able to stretch away, so the real fight is for second here in this heat, and you can see there's another real fight for fourth as well between Ruben Lorente and Diogo Villarreal. Here is Ruben Lorente now on the inside. Diogo Villarreal now the one with the hand signals and the dramatics in the sim racing cockpit. It is Ruben Lorente Jr. in the number 10 on the inside. Diogo Villarreal in the all-black Formula Vee around the outside, and it's got to be Diogo Villarreal who miraculously comes out on top in this one. And you can see Reutemann now trying the same move around the outside in towards the first corner. Lorente fights back, the number 10 back ahead.
Oh, but there's a contact there, and I believe Lorente will not be best pleased with that one. It was such an avoidable contact, and you can see there the hands come out once again. It looks as though that Lorente got the move done, but Villarreal was just on throttle a bit too early, and the contact was almost avoidable, so that's unfortunate. What was a quintet up in front has now become a trio once again.
Yeah, I imagine there'll be another form of hand signal from Ruben Lorente there, but unfortunately he spun around behind Levanto Dantas, and he is in 6th place. We're coming on to the final lap already here. What a quick evening of AMX 0 action this was around a fabulous little circuit just outside of Tokyo. You can see on the picture-in-picture Ruben Lorente Jr. and Diogo Villarreal, their incident. Just got tagged from behind, didn't Lorente, and I think that one is entirely on Diogo Villarreal and might be an appeal to the stewards from Lorente. Here we go then, final lap of the race. Ayrton Reutemann down the inside of Ralph Benitez. No, not this time.
Yep, but I will hazard to guess that Reutemann may be fancying his chances in the next couple of hairpins, in particular this first one, because we've seen a couple of people try to do it already, but again, he's just following Benitez's line, probably pressuring the mistake. The last real chance he's going to get is that last hairpin coming up to turn number 8, and that's it. After that will be a long stretch all the way up to turn 9. That will be his prime overtaking spot. If he could try to hang around the outside there, is he going to think about it here? No. He's biding his time right now as we come onto the back straight, Evan.
Yes, it's a final chance for Ayrton Reutemann. Is he able to get the exit on Ralph Benitez? He isn't. Benitez lost the race lead by getting a poor exit out of there. Or sorry, Simon Demori lost the race lead by getting a poor exit out of there too, Ralph Benitez. Benitez knows well, you got to get a good run out of turn number 8 if you want to be successful through turn number 9. Reutemann got close, Benitez has got on the curb. Is that going to allow Ayrton Reutemann through? It isn't. Simon Demori will win in Tsukuba. It's double trouble for the Austrian, but Ralph Benitez will hold on to second place. Ayrton Reutemann third. Absolute barnstormer here in the second heat.
Wow, wait, that was as nip and tuck as you were going to get between second and third, but Benitez hangs on to it by the skin of his teeth in front of Reutemann, but Demori, a double winner here today. Unfortunately, he didn't get pole position, otherwise he would have been a triple crown winner. Villarreal crosses 4th, controversially, of course, with that last lap collision, or rather second to last lap collision with Lorente, Dantas in 5th, Lorente 6th, Pereira, the control player, in 7th, and Sardini, the last of the finishes here, coming across the line. He'll be very disappointed that the start of his evening wasn't good, but he'll be looking forward to the next one after this, where we're really going to get going tonight.
Yes, in the words of Bruce Buffer, it's the main event of the evening coming up in AMX 20. But first, we have to run you through your final results here in AMX 0. Your BenQ session winner once again, Simon Demori. Fastest lap went to the second place man though, Ralph Benitez, who was just over a second shy of Simon. Then Ethan Reutemann in 3rd, Diogo Villarreal in 4th, then Evandro Dantas in 5th, Ruben Lorente Jr. in 6th, out of David Pereira in 7th, Jared Sardini Jr. in 8th, Gaston Calhavi in 9th, and Michael Demori once again not getting started in 10th position. So it's a very happy Simon Demori leaving Tsukuba here tonight. He will be probably racing an AMX 20 in a couple of moments' time. But overall, Amir, did Formula V's provide tonight?
Yeah, Evan, I would say yes. It really lived up to the expectation I had for these cars because really, again, I did see them last season a couple of times, especially in Hockenheim where they were really close, but just minimal contact was enough to send them in the air. Luckily though, only a couple of occasions that we had that, but the racing was absolutely intense and I would really love to be one of these guys behind the wheel right now. Just a good sweat driving what could be said is the best racing vehicle out there besides the Formula 4 1600s.
Yeah, I love the Formula V's, so I'm very glad that you enjoyed them at home as well, folks. A fabulous little car around a fabulous little circuit, and I think Tsukuba would have picked up a few more fans tonight as well. But folks, we do have plenty more action coming up. We return to the Hungaroring, a circuit that if you're a motorsport fan, you've probably watched a certain race around there tonight, but the biggest event of the evening there, AMX 20, of course. You are well used to it by now, the newest addition to the AMX season, and myself and Amir will be joining you in a couple of moments' time for that one as well. If you're bored during the break, why don't you check out some of our fabulous social media channels, which you can see on the bottom, which I've almost learned off the order by now, but it is the Instagram, Twitch, X, Discord, YouTube, AMXrace.com, and TikTok. You can check them all out. There's some fabulous content on each of them. We do have more action coming up, as we have teased very nicely tonight. It's the biggest event in the season, or well, one of 6 of them, AMX 20. Coming up with myself and Amir. Don't go anywhere, folks. Get your popcorn, get your drinks. We'll be back in a couple of moments.
To save our home, we must travel through the gateway to find new energy.
We go racing for heat number 1 here in Austria. Over AMX 20 in towards the nicking outer curve, bumping and banging and into the wall. That is a horrible crash. That's a huge lunge from Tsukuba, and he's made contact with, I believe, oh wow, it's a chaotic moment here. And slipstream in front for either car, and you could just see Tsukuba pushing Florian Levigra right over.
Here we go then. Valeri, he looks left, he looks right. He's going to choose the right hand side, which is the inside going 8 to 10 3.
Here it is. This is the crucial moment in this race. It's looking like it's only going one way. David Dott is going to take the race lead. Heading into the second half of the season, the Hungarian of David Dott has driven a masterclass here with the early pit stop. Not the ideal strategy, but an ideal race winner and an excellent performance.
Oh no, right there, Vic Miranda, Peter Zuba into the wall.
It's actually Valero. Valero's actually gone off into the barriers, coming up to the cutting.
David Todd making his way back up, has already climbed 7 positions.
Oh, I spoke too soon there. Sandy goes off.
So right now, this is going to be where it's going to get shaken up. David Todd passes them while they are in the pit through the mountain straight now, going 3 wide.
Oh my word, that is probably one of the best shows of the entire season.
So we have 3-way battle going to the most dangerous turn of the mountain. Up the mountain, we have contact right there. These guys going absolutely crazy. It's going to come down to the final corner, Murray's corner. Who is going to have to lead? We may have a drag race to the finish line on our hands, folks. You see David Todd right now going into the pit lane. go.
Carousel immediately. He gets punted off. That was Saavedra. Aguilar, he's gone off. He's been tapped, and he's into the barriers. Oh, the rejoin. Oh,
and
no.
Dean. Oh, Pedro, Dean.
Oh, Chris Lalum does have the inside track, but it's just left. If he's able to make that pass happen, he might be able to cut away Victorino. He does make that pass, and he makes it clean as they come into the right hand. And this is it. Chris Lalum seizes the opportunity and makes it. And just as the end, the rain comes to put a pin onto the end of the race, and Chris Lalum takes it.
really know why it's going wrong. Sitting here alone, I can see
A circuit and a car combination fit for a fantastic event. It's AMX 20 and we return here for race 32 of the Season 5 AMX Global Sim Racing World Championship. It's the Hungaroring that hosts the GTP Class here this evening. The 4.381 kilometre, 2.722 mile circuit with 14 corners. My name's Evan Dalton. It's a pleasure to be with you here this evening, and Amir joins back alongside me, just like we were earlier for AMX 0. Amir, we're in for something good tonight, I feel.
It is quite an odd track combination, car and track combo, I'm not gonna lie. But I'm pretty much excited for it because it is an unknown, isn't it? We don't normally get these kind of big prototypes around a circuit that is quite notorious for overtaking, but I will be interested to see how the AMX 20 guys will handle this one, because it will surely be another one of those competitive races.
Yes, the AMX 20 Championship has provided goods all season at Bathurst, at the Nürburgring, at the Red Bull Ring, and we are here at the Hungaroring. So you put ring in the track, it seems to bode nicely for a bit of AMX 20 action. But the GTPs have been a fan and driver favourite, so we are very much looking forward to seeing the hot laps and overtakes that they put in. But before we do that, there's some housekeeping to run you through. We'd also like to remind you to check out all our social media channels, which can be found at the bottom of this screen. But let's get straight into things then, folks, without any further delay. The AMX Sim Racing World Championship, of course, started May 25th. It'll end on August 18th. $15,000 and a lot of next level racing gear for drivers to win. We have, of course, the sometimes weird but mostly fabulous car and track combos and a fabulous AMX 20 format. It's a 20-minute qualifier, then we reverse the top 15 for a 30-minute heat, reverse it again for another 30-minute heat. The longest format in AMX Global history. Dare I say also the most interesting. The prize amounts for every standing, of course, are the same for every single session. Driver cams once again required as always for the AMX 20 Championship, so we can see some fabulous views. Balances over $100 paid out each month, and we of course race on Saturdays and Sundays. If you want to enter, make sure you do so by signing up to race anytime at amxrace.com. Of course, Saturdays and Sundays when we race, of course in alternating weeks we'll have 2 AMX5 races on both Saturdays and Sundays. You can catch them at 5:50 PM GMT and 7:20 PM GMT, and then the next weekend we'll have AMX5 both on the Saturday. Oh, sorry, 2 AMX5 races on the Saturday. I'll get this right at one point this season, folks, don't worry. 5:50 PM GMT and 7:20 PM GMT for them, and then on the Sunday, today, AMX 0 will start off with some combos such as the Formula Vees at Tsukuba at 5:50 PM, and then we have the big one, AMX 20 at 7 o'clock. Prize pool, of course, is a lot bigger than what you would have seen earlier. It is $60 for pole position, for a Heat 1 win, or for a Heat 2 win. Then it goes down to 40, 36, 32, 28, 24, 20, 18, 16, 14, 12, 10, 8, 6, and 4. There's no bonus, of course, for a fastest lap in qualifying, because, well, that's the point of qualifying, isn't it? The fastest lap. But there is an $8 prize for the fastest lap in both Heat 1 and Heat 2. You do need 4,000 iRacing, road iRacing, if you want to race in this championship. But that's because we hand out $1,000 per evening. Here is how it stands then after the previous AMX 20 race. David Todt still on top. He's raced 3 times, he's won 1, he does have 2 session wins and a fastest lap. Currently at the top with 338 points, ahead of last season's champion Gael Valero in second. Marcos Saavedra in third, didn't race in Austria, but still with a comfortable championship position with 170 points. And it is Thomas Simo in fourth, ahead of the fabulous Chris Lullum in fifth. Sean Campbell in sixth on 132 points, just 2 points ahead of Bruno De Carmo in seventh. Pedro Dean then in 8th. He gained a spot in Austria. And of Dino Felipe in 9th. Dino with a great evening in Austria, managed to gain 4 positions there. Then there's Diogo Pinto, who is in 10th position with 116 points. And of course the AMX 20 tier prize. You can pick up yourself up an elite ES1 sim racing seat thanks to our fabulous partners Next Level Racing. We're very thankful to have them on board. The drivers are too, because the prizes they provide absolutely fabulous, just like the one you can see on your screen. You can check them out and purchase one for yourself, of course, on Next Level Racing. And now to hand you back over to Amir, who's going to run you through this fabulous Hungaroring circuit.
Indeed, Evan, and it is quite fabulous because a Grand Prix circuit, what's not to like about it, and one of the very few Grade 1 circuits out in the old Eastern Bloc, in the city of Magyarország, just outside of Budapest. Opened first in 1986, with a slight difference in variations in terms of layout over the years, including the extension of turn number 1 and bypassing the chicane. Yes, there was a chicane that heads up the hill into Sector 2 that we used to run through, but then they just bypassed it from 1987 onwards because it's just a fast-flowing one. There it is. There's that little chicane in question coming out of turn number 3. But the length still relatively just under 4.5 kilometers, 4.381 kilometers to be exact. Still tight, twisty, technical in some respects, but that front straight definitely does set you up for some good overtaking spots, especially coming into turn number 1, the heavy braking area. Let's see if the GTP cars can actually do that. But speaking of cars, we're gonna go straight over to now. What toys are we playing with here at the Hungaroring? As Evan mentioned before, it is the IMSA GTP cars, or to give it its regulation name, the Le Mans Daytona H LMDH prototypes. 671 horsepower is because it is mandated to be at that. They don't have a hybrid system that's bespoke compared to their Le Mans hypercar counterparts, but nonetheless it's a spec 50 kilowatt battery hybrid unit that's in these cars, rear-wheel drive, and of course, and another mandate, they had to put it at around 1.030 tons, and a flappy better gearbox just to make it easy for the drivers here to get through. But make no mistake, these are actually quite a formidable piece of kit and have provided some really good action, especially in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship over the past couple of seasons, and can't wait to see how they fare around this Grand Prix venue, where we don't really normally see it in real life, but at least in virtual, we can see how these things go, Evan.
Yes, we can. It's a fabulous car indeed. A little bit of a fun one for you folks. Never ask a man his salary, a woman her age, or the ACO or IMSA what the H stands for in LMDH. Go Google that one, folks. Trust me, you'll find that one funny. But it is a fabulous car indeed. The Grand Touring prototypes, as they like to call them, stateside. We have the Acura, we have the BMW, we have the Cadillac, and we have the Porsche. An interesting selection this evening in qualifying. I do believe we have all 4 on display. We do, yeah, we have all 4 on display. So a nice selection indeed here at the Hungaroring, which, other than the Gran Turismo movie, never sees LMP1s race around here because they're traditionally on your World Endurance Championship and your IMSA tracks. But in qualifying so far, currently quickest, it's a home hero. Tamás Simon, the Hungarian driver, is currently quickest in the BMW. We are on board one of the caddies, I believe. You can tell which one's the Cadillac because it sounds beautiful.
Yep, it's a V8, normally aspirated engine. It does have hybrid, of course, all these cars have hybrid, but because it still maintains that normally aspirated engine, it does have that growl, that really meaty V8 sound that we come to love, especially from GM products. It really is a nice sounding car, but make no mistake, the other cars are lookers as well. It's just that the sound, you can't beat the Cadillac for that one.
Yes, you can't beat the Cadillac, but I think my favourite to look at might actually be the Acura. You can, sorry, I don't think we do have any Acuras on the grid here tonight. No, we don't. So we don't have all 4, we only have 3. But the Acura is a looker, as is the BMW, as are they all, as is every race car that's ever existed. We love them all. But 2 Hungarian drivers on the grid here this evening, Tamás Simon, and of course we have Norbert Leitner. So those 2 will be looking to impress the home faithful tonight at the Hungaroring. We're 10 minutes out of 20 into qualifying. It is Thomas Simon ahead of Bruno De Carmo and Peter Zuba in third. David Todt then in fourth. Robert Leitner in fifth with Juan Belenat in sixth, and it is Jackson Resenge in seventh. Down in eighth spot we have Tobias Soriano, I should say. Guy Valero just jumping up tonight. And then Simon De Mori in 10th. Simon is going from driving Formula V's to driving GTPs, and other than the fact it rhymes, there is literally nothing that is similar in the two machines.
Indeed, and the fact that there is a Volkswagen brand being represented here with in the form of the Porsche, of course. So at least there is some correlation to that one, even if it is involving a bit of 6 degrees of separation. But the other thing to note that we actually have a third Hungarian driver here sporting the European Union flag. It is in fact David Todt. So Todt is the third Hungarian involved here.
Yeah, see, I should have remembered that, because if you watched the sort of the nice fancy edit before the stream, I'm pretty sure my voice is in it going, the Hungarian David Todt. So I should have remembered that. I also have it written in front of me. So David Todt is here as well, representing Hungary, the championship leader, who we're looking at now. He is, of course, in the Cadillac V Series GTP. It is a 5.5 litre V8 engine, 670 brake horsepower, which is fairly standard for these cars. 1,030 kilograms, and of course has that 50 kilowatt hybrid system. Races in both IMSA and the WEC, and he's going off on another hot lap now. Here's Juan Belenat, who's circling around in a very bright blue and yellow machine. He'll be looking to try and jump up the order. Currently green in the first 2 sectors, so green in the third, and that'll jump him up a tad. Goes across the start finish line, will indeed beat Norbert Leitner and jump up to 5th place with 12 minutes gone in qualifying. So a good lap indeed from Juan.
Yep, but so far, nobody has been able to topple Tamas Simon up in front here. As we look at the other Hungarian on board today is Norbert Leitner. Let's see then how he fares through the first couple of sectors. It looks as though it's just a bit off right now. He is not going to be able to challenge the pole for the time being, but certainly if he actually improves his second to third sectors, he might just be able to jump a couple of positions coming to that final sector now. And again, not much improvement in the way that he's going to come across here, but make no mistake, if push comes to shove, and especially on a home ground, he might just bring something onto the table.
Yes, you always like to perform in front of your home faithful, don't you? You want to make sure that you can perform in front of the Hungarian crowd. In terms of at this circuit, only one Hungarian has actually competed in the Hungarian Grand Prix. Zoltz Baumgartner. He did it twice. In 2003, he raced for Jordan and unfortunately retired. But he did get a 15th place finish for Minardi in 2004. That's one more 15th place in Formula 1 than I have, so I'm not going to go and hate on that at all. So fair play to Zoltz. But I think Thomas Simon, knowing his usual high standards, would like a little bit better than 15th place here this evening. He will get that, actually, because we only have 14 drivers. But here's Juan Belenat once again, who is improving. He was pushed back down to 6th place, so he's looking to get back out of it. He'll jump to 5th again. So a position that is nicely held by Juan Belenat. He jumps ahead of Pedro Dean in 6th place. It's we're currently looking, I should say, at Pedro Dean here, who's not improving. He's heading into the pit lane.
Yep, and to add on to that fact, with Baumgartner being the first F1 driver to compete under the Hungarian nationality, there's also Saba Kajna, who was unfortunately killed in a crash in a Formula 3 race in Nürburgring 1988. He was the first Hungarian to test a Formula 1 car, albeit running puttering at around 2nd gear, not to break the engine, and it was a Zach speed of all things, around the Hungaroring in 1986. So he was the first to test it out, but he never made a debut, so Baumgartner holds the torch on that one.
If you knew that off the top of your head, that's the most impressive thing I've ever heard.
I remember the name specifically because it was a peculiar accident. It was unfortunately grisly, but I remember it was one of those guys that tested before the start of the 86 Grand Prix, the inaugural one, where PK moved on Senna there. But apart from the other usual oddities, apart from Kajna, there was a Lada race prior to that. But yeah, it's just some things that I picked up along the way while researching some stuff.
That's insane. That's a mad, especially to remember testing and stuff like that. But yeah, Nelson Piquet, as you mentioned, did win the first race with that famous overtake in 1986, and back in the Lotus in those days. We're looking at Guile Valero, though, the man who, of course, is very successful, maybe not at the Hungaroring, but in AMX. He's currently driving for Apex Racing Team, as you can see, the blue and black Apex Racing colours that are rounding the final corners. He was first in the AMX 10 Championship last season, first in the AMX GT Championship, and first overall. But he is being put to work by David Tot in this AMX 20 Championship, so he knows he needs a big result here this evening. Not currently qualifying ahead of David Tot, so needs to probably put a better lap in. You can see Tobias Soriano running for the final corners as Thomas Simon goes even quicker here in qualifying. He manages to push the boundary another tenth of a second quicker ahead of Bruno De Carmo, who's just heading through turn number 3 now, I should say, up towards turn number 4. You can see Jared Saudeni Jr. green, Jackson Resenje green. No improvements for Norbert Leitner for the time being. Bruno De Carmo only needs to find another tenth of a second, but that is easier said than done.
Indeed, and the fact that with a circuit this tiny in comparison to some of the other circuits that these GTP prototypes run on, it will be hard to find lap time, especially given the fact that the parity among these cars is so equal. It just takes the driver to make a bit of a difference. And on top of all of that, we might have a bit of a lottery with the weather, because look at the skies then. Someone pointed out in the comments just now, there might be rain on the menu, so keep an eye out for that. We've had rain already before in AMX 20, but didn't know it would come this soon, especially with the GTP cars around here.
Yes, does anyone remember the Season 4 finale when it rained in Spa? It was about a week after the iRacing rain update, and I think I remember every single driver crashed on the opening lap in the rain. So something like that would certainly provide some entertainment. Obviously we don't like to see crashes, but it'll shuffle up the order a tad. We're looking at Tobias Soriano though, who is rounding the couple of corners. Now we're looking at Gaston Gahavi. He's green on all his time, on all his sector times I should say, but he is a little bit off the rest of the field. So unfortunately Gaston may be struggling to get up to speed a little bit, although he's just gone 2 tenths off Jared Saudeni, so he's getting there eventually. Tobias Soriano improved to 6th, jumped ahead of Pedro Dean behind Juan Blaine. That's the official holder of P5 in this qualifying session. Still nobody getting close to that sole man in the 31s of Thomas Simon. Although if you did expect anyone to be good around the Hungaroring, you'd probably expect it to be Thomas Simon.
No doubt about it, especially given the fact that it's on home ground, and we did say earlier, it just I think it was Nigel Mansell that said that if you got really good support from your home fans, it is worth about 2 tenths of a second. Currently, it's just a whisker above a tenth, and he's still going faster here. And incidentally though, he's wearing VR headset, so that's one of a very few drivers that have actually adopted this to race around in iRacing, though iRacing's implementation is very good anyway. It's just, personally, I'm not a fan of it, but if they're fast in it, so be it.
Nigel Mansell actually one of only 2 Formula 1 drivers to win the F1 World title at the Hungaroring. He won it in 1992, Michael Schumacher won it in 2001. Thomas Simon would like to win an AMX World Championship here, but unfortunately we still have plenty of time to go in the season. The VR headset, yeah, it's a new addition to Thomas for this season. I agree with you here. I don't really like it either, but I think that's because of how close you just have the screen to your face. I just don't get how it's beneficial, but it's working because he's currently quickest. Bruno De Carmo did go purple in the first sector on his last lap, but unfortunately wasn't able to improve overall. If you're unfamiliar in what the purple, green and yellow sectors are, purple means you're quickest of anyone, green means it's the quickest you've done, yellow means you're too slow. Unfortunately, you can see on the bottom, Thomas and Pedro both too slow on these laps. Norbert Leitner, purple in that middle sector. But he's now stopped.
Oh yes, he is.
That's very anticlimactic.
Oh no, there it is. Just as we were building it up, wasn't it? But it does happen sometimes that maybe it's for tactical purposes, because again, we flipped the script on this one, and the whole field in this particular case will be flipped around. So the guy that start qualifying last will be up in pole. So at least they'll be closer to the front compared to Thomas Simon here, who will be having to work his way through the field from the back. And in difficult circumstances, shall we say, because these are slightly bigger cars compared to the current Grand Prix cars, it is going to be a task to overtake.
The last man to improve on his lap, I believe, before the clock strikes 20 minutes is going to be Bruno De Carmo, who's just rounding through the final couple of corners now, or he might have just backed out on his lap already. I believe he has. So there'll be no more improvements here in qualifying. My timing screen has just shown David Toth has just taken pole. I'm not sure if that's legit or not, but my timing screen has just flashed that David Toth took pole position. We might see it as the results load in, but he was pushing on that last lap to try and make the line. If he was able to take pole right at the end, that was dramatic, and he has. He's stolen it at the death from one of the other home heroes. It's the Hungarian 1-2 at the Hungaroring. David Toth takes pole with a 1:31.919 by 0.003 here in AMX 20, and he's your BenQ session winner. Extraordinary.
0.003 of a second separating Toth and Simon, and I can't wait to see if the social media guys behind the scenes after this, if they make a video comparison of that, how much of a blink of an eye that can come through. I think it's much even faster than a blink of an eye.
Don't do that.
So yeah, that's really close, but my god, I did see the purple sectors come in. I didn't expect him to actually get it right at the death, but he did. So Toth and Simon line up, well, we'll be right at the back, but they qualified the two fastest guys in this session, and that will definitely be real big morale boost coming to the race.
I don't know why I checked the timing screen last minute, but I did, and it just flashed up David Toth on pole. That is extraordinary. He takes your $60, and that's rough for Tamas, who's just lost out on 20, but he qualifies in second. Bruno De Carmo in third, Peter Zuba in fourth, Jackson Resenje fifth, Juan Blainat in sixth, and Tobias Soriano in seventh, Pedro Dean in eighth, Norbert Leitner ninth, Gael Valero 10th. Folks, top 10 are separated by under 3.5 tenths of a second. That's extraordinary around a circuit like this. I cannot fathom how close that is. This is going to be a fantastic race. Simon Demori in 11th, out of Gerard Sardeni Jr. in 12th, Ruben Lorente Jr. in 13th, and Gaston Colhavi in 14th. So seems like our Formula Vee bunch from earlier just struggling a tad here. But Amir, what can we expect from this race? Of course, you have to do a mandatory pit stop as well. So is strategy going to be a big important factor here?
While you're talking about strategy, look at the wipers. The rain has actually made an appearance here, Evan. So, drama's already. Will we get a pit stop before the race even gets underway? We saw that before, remember, when we had the F1 race in 2021, but the rest of the field went in and Lewis Hamilton was the only guy on the grid. So, if the guys didn't get their wet weather tires on right now, they will be sold very short.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to check if they are actually on slicks or wets, but it's certainly raining and pouring here in the Hungaroring. My goodness me, this track is soaked. What a spectacle this is building up to be. Your closest qualifying in AMX 20 history. GTP cars at a very soaked, wet track, and there's cars gone round. We haven't even got started, and Gael Valero is into the wall before the race has even got underway. We go racing finally in the Hungaroring, and Gaston Colhavi leads into the first corner. Simon Demori second, Norbert Leitner third, Tobias Soriano in fourth. It's raining, it's pouring, the GTPs are spinning on the opening lap here in Hungary.
And worst of all, look at that. Look who's in the pit lane. Tamas Simon, the home hero, has actually either gone into the pits because of damage, or he actually is pitting for wet weather tires. But what if it is? Look at that. The spins have already happened, and that is merely a major collision.
Oh, into the wall, big crash there. That is Simon Demori? I think it is Simon Demori. We've lost another driver here to these wet conditions, and significant damage potentially indeed. Norbert Leitner and Tobias Soriano battling here. Norbert Leitner doesn't know what has just happened. He's leading his home race here in AMX 0, or is he? Because things got very close in towards the turns 6 and 7 chicane, and that is Tobias Soriano who has to cut across it, unfortunately. Bruno De Carmo has gained 10 positions in 9 corners in huge cars that are not easy to overtake here in the Hungaroring. Absolutely incredible on all accounts. Juan Blainat looking to try and attack Pedro Dean. We have 3 cars permanently in the pit lane. Simon Demori and Tamas Simon are one of them, as is Gerard Sardeni. I don't think we could have asked for a more dramatic lap if we wrote the script ourselves, Amir.
Absolutely. I don't think they'll even believe us if we actually put the rain on immediately and everyone will be like this. But the thing is, we had an accident even before the start. In fact, here we go. There's the replay of it. What happened? Because we had a spinner on the way that looked like, oh yeah, there we go. That was Sardinia, I think. Yeah, spun into the path of Valero, and then Valero just got finished off because he got whacked into the barriers and nearly into the pit. But unfortunately, that's the end of his run. As we have a car coming to pit lane right now, Resende. So at least now we know at least one driver who did not start on the wet weather tires. I wish that our timing screen does show which tires they're on, because that's one thing that's missing at this point, to know what compounds they're on. But whatever it is, what a dramatic start to this race, and we're only 2 laps in.
Yes, we're only 2 laps in, and this is truly incredible. You've got Gaston Gohavi here running the number 9, and you can see that is Juan Blenat and Tobias Soriano who are battling. Okay, it's Soriano in that all-yellow car. I believe Norbert Leitner's just actually lost the race lead. I believe something's happened to Norbert Leitner because he's losing spots very, very quickly. Juan Blenat has overtaken Norbert Leitner now. Leitner lost the race lead to Bruno De Carmo, who is just heading through that uphill right-hander now, and that's actually very wide for Juan Blenat. I think Norbert Leitner will take that spot back as quickly as he lost it. Some trouble there for Juan Blenat. Shockingly, it's a South American racer that is leading here in the soaking wet circuit. It's not something Bruno De Carmo would have raced on too often. It's very quick when the downpours happen. Juan Blenat all over the shop, unfortunately, in this second sector, struggling in these conditions.
He may have been the second coming of Jesus Christ, or he actually just embodied himself to be Ayrton Senna, because that is pretty much like how the first lap in the 1993 European Grand Prix was going. Yeah, I mean, of course, Senna that day drove McLaren, but yeah, the Tony Kanaan colours do look like a Lotus anyway. But that is a nice touch from De Carmo to be running those colours in the rain up in front with a mastery of the first lap in the wet weather conditions.
Is doing a good job indeed is Bruno De Carmo, and you can see Juan Blenat just rounding and trying to keep the car on track. He was 9th overall last season in AMX from Argentina. He's a man who's actually quite good in a virtual IndyCar, would you believe? That's usually his forte. Again, they don't get much wet weather, so it's new territory for Juan Blenat. He won at Long Beach in the Junkers Hollinger IndyCar series, and do I need to tell you about Californian weather? Because we don't get much rain. But he's doing a steady job ahead of Peter Zuba in 5th. Peter was one of those drivers who did suffer in that Spa race in the soaking wet in the GTPs. He had a great time though, enjoyed it very much, so he knows what to expect.
Well, speaking of knowing what to expect, you might, if you're Peter Zuba right now, you'll be hoping and praying that through that spray, the car in front is not stationary or having a spin, because it is right now quite blinding. If you're a guy in front, you're in the beneficiary spot. You don't have to worry about the guy following you, because he will be blinded by the amount of spray that's being kicked out right now. Very heavy rain that we are having at the Hungaroring. And that's quite a rarity, because for the first at least 20 years of the Hungarian Grand Prix being held, we had no rain until 2006. So 20 years from the first that particular race was when we had a deluge like this.
Yeah, and it's the track that probably isn't ideal to have heavy rain in GTPs. Maybe if it was Le Mans or something like that. There's not as many tight, slow-speed corners, so you don't have to worry about your traction as much, where you really got to work the car around these corners here in the Hungaroring. There's the Simon Demori incident. Oh no, that driver has to hold his brakes. Could be in trouble with that if Simon lodges an appeal.
Well, I don't think he might be playing too much, knowing the fact that the guy was actually spinning under control anyway, and he tried to hold the brakes, but the car was just rolling. And what happened to Mori afterwards was just wet grass with possibly slick tires, just no purchase there, and he went absolutely harpooning into the barriers afterwards. Just really scuppers his race.
Yeah, the track is slowly drying out. It's not as much kayak racing and slowly turning into motorsport once again, because we're seeing quick times across the field from all drivers, or quicker at times than what we had. Reminder of your pit stops. The top 8 have not graced the Hungarian pit lane just yet, so they will still have to do that at one point. Jackson Senje is your leader of the pit stoppers. David Todd, they're jumping up to 7th. Just look on board the cockpit here at Tobias Soriano. There's still an extreme amount of spray.
Oof. And amount of input that he had to go into the steering wheel that he doesn't want to actually lose the car. Just in fact, speaking of losing it, there is Leitner losing right in front of him.
Yeah, that's Norbert Leitner in the 21 that he's gone around under braking, I think. I wonder, was there a little bit of aquaplaning, something like that, but he's gone around and unfortunately drops down to 7th. Was running a very steady second, was the Hungarian driver, so he's going to be very disappointed in that mistake. But look, it's very easy to make a mistake in these conditions. You can't really kick yourself too much over it. You've got to be the best of the best if you can go mistake-free for 18 laps in these conditions at the Hungaroring.
Yep, and you're going to have to be like Bruno De Carmo, who was under pressure at one point from Blanat and Leitner before Leitner made that mistake. Now it just opens up the rest of the field being the next attack. So you can see there, De Carmo is making a beeline for it, 2 seconds ahead of Blanat, Soriano, and Zuba, who are in this particular battle pack for P2. It's Porsche, and BMW in that particular row, with another BMW being driven by Pedro Dean, quietly making his way up to P5. As we can see the incident with Leitner, how lucky was Soriano not to whack the back of him?
Yeah, very lucky because he followed him off. He's very lucky indeed to not pick up too much damage. That it did help Bruno De Carmo's race lead. You can see Peter Zuba just looking to pounce on Tobias Soriano. Vehicle engineer and the mechanical model engineer is Peter Zuba. He also happens to be a very quick sim racer, so keep an eye out on him. And that's very slow off the corner for Tobias Soriano. Peter Zuba has just gone onto soaked AstroTurf, soaked runoff to make the move, and the car didn't even flinch. Bravery of the highest order, stupidity some would say, but not Peter Zuba, who's now up onto the podium in 3rd place.
And that was opportunistic. That was almost like, remember Nigel Mansell did that in 89 against Senna as well, when the back markers came to play. No back marker in the shot for this one, but he really had to trust that Soriano did not cut across back to him when he was offline and getting the position. So, well played from Zuba. He's the man with the bit between his teeth at this point in these conditions.
Yeah, he knows he can perform in these conditions. He knows he has it in him, so he wants to try and get the maximum result possible here in AMX 20, race 32. Tobias Soriano, although made a mistake there, he's still keeping up with the front runners here. He's up 4 spots to 4th, so still a steady drive so far from the Argentine. Someone in the stream chat saying, if it works, it's bravery. Yeah, that reminds me of the quote, if it's stupid and it works, it's not stupid. Peter Zuba is portraying that whole adage nicely. Lap 6 of 18, Bruno De Carmo, 2.2 second lead and extending. Fastest lap of the race there, so he picked up an extra prize for that if it stands come the conclusion of heat number 1 here.
Well, he'll be laughing all the way to the bank here, knowing the fact that look at the amount of positions he gained from that first lap fracas for multiple drivers. He just sneaked by all of them and just held on to the lead, but the job's not done yet, as we can see. Oh, that's very close. That was way too close from Soriano and Zuba.
Yeah, mistake for Tobias, slides back onto the circuit. He's lost a second and a half there to Peter Zuba in front, but does manage to carry on without losing any positional placement. So he's still in 4th, but just struggling a bit, and that's wide up the hill. That is wide in towards turn number 4, but once again rejoins okay. So his rejoins to the circuit are perfect. It's just through the corners that he's making the mistakes. He might be under pressure from Pedro Dean in a couple of laps' time, but Pedro is just managing the car himself here. It's a very slidey GTP for Tobias Soriano. That Porsche is struggling.
And he's running the JDC Miller colours as well, so he's running one of the official cars here. As speaking of struggling, we saw just now Kulhavi in the inset having a little bit of a slight spin coming out of turn number turn number 3. Got away with that one. It was just a slight tap of the barrier. As you can see, he's still in the race, still only about 7-8 seconds now behind David Toff. But for some drivers, they are trying to find the limit of adhesion and try to get away with some things in these conditions. Or for others, like Bruno De Carmo, he's just been lackadaisical somewhat. And I say lackadaisical because he is not really showing too much histrionics, though he is being caught right now by Juan Plena, so it might just be a Brazilian and Argentine battle. That is two nationalities. There are two nationalities that cannot be separated further apart, because in terms of sporting rivalries, it doesn't get much bigger than those.
Unless it's this year's Copa America, of course, which Argentina did significantly better than Brazil. Sorry, I'm pretty sure I promised... who did I promise it today? Dino Felipe, yeah, I promised I'd support Argentina on the stream for after the Copa America started. But Bruno De Carmo is He slowly clawed in by Juan Blanat, which would make me think he made a mistake. That's a spinning car in front of him. That is lap traffic, though. He is, of course, the race leader, so if he doesn't spin, then the race leader hasn't spun. So that is just lap traffic, unfortunately, there for him. These guys, remember, they do got to come into the pit lane, even if it is just for a short service, and Juan Blanat runs wide. The thing for Blanat here is he's making more mistakes, but he is quicker. So it's a bit of a balancing act here. Will the hare or the tortoise win the race?
Yeah, it's a bit of a dichotomy, isn't it? He is faster in terms of pace, but he's just not stringing the corners as fast as he would have liked. Otherwise, he would be literally streets away in front of the Carmo, as we saw just now. That car, spinning car, that was Herat Sardani, who is unfortunately, his race has gone really pear-shaped from the word go. But back to Blanat, he's fast here, but even faster behind is Peter Zuba. Zuba now is hot on his chuff.
Yeah, Peter Zuba, when we had the camera angle that we had, where it was just his headlights looking at Juan Blanat, going through the water, it's like a European Jaws, if that's such a thing. I can hear the music coming at Juan Blanat, because it's a scary sight when Peter Zuba gets the bit between his teeth, starts pushing, starts finding grip, and he's clawing you in. As you can see there, 0.6 a lap quicker than Juan Blanat on that last attempt. Tobias Soriano actually going purple, so he's lapping pretty well as well. But Peter Zuba is certainly a fantastic prospect, and a driver you can never rule out, even if things go pear-shaped for him at the start of this race. Lap 8 out of 18. We're not even halfway through this first heat. That's how cracking this one's been.
Indeed, and Peter Zuba also made an appearance in chat quite a few times. Yes, we have not forgotten to acknowledge the guys who have kept the stream alive through the comments on both YouTube and in Twitch. Site 815, Diego Villarreal de Leon, in fact, he's also made an appearance here as well. Just Keith, Exhaust Sniffer, Driver Cams, and right at the top, it was Adam Paston on to YouTube, and on Twitch, we got plenty of people. With Bones, Sweet Trip, Jale, and right at the top just now, I think in fact, it was Jale, but pleasure to have you guys on board here, and pleasure the fact that the races have been really good so far.
Races have been really good. Juan Blanat made a bit of a mistake, so the Jaws music restarts once again, and Peter Zuba has got even closer, now 0.4 of a second here behind Juan Blanat. And Juan he's really quick. He's just making those mistakes. And that is slowly allowing the race clutch driver to get that tad bit closer, and you can see just tucking into the slipstream here. Juan, of course, representing Rincon Racing. So two top teams, two top drivers going against each other here at the soaked Hungaroring. The sky's actually looking quite nice now. It's getting sunny, so the track should start to dry out soon. We're seeing a lot quicker lap times than we did at the start of the race. That makes me wonder about pit stops now. Will those who've already pit have to come back in?
But crucially, would they pit for another set of wets, or they go and try to be adventurous with the dries? I think, since we're at the halfway point, they're still going to wait it out at least until the last 5 laps, and maybe they can start considering going onto the dry tires. But judging by the biblical deluge that Site 815 I think mentioned, we don't have to wait that long after this, because it has stopped, the sun's coming through, and the 40 days of floods have come to an end, so everyone can come out of Noah's Ark now.
Yeah, I think you got to wait it out as long as possible for hopefully the track to become dry, because you don't want to pit for a set of wets, serve your manual pit stop, and then all of a sudden slicks are just so much quicker for the last 5 laps. So you got to try hold it out on this wet tires as much as possible, almost make them to become sort of wet slicks, if that makes sense. Just wear them out as much as possible. Tire wear is not too bad around this track in these cars, especially when you're only running 18 or so laps, so kind of just wait it out for as long as possible. Here is one of the forgotten heroes of this race, Simon Demori, the man who did the double in AMX 0 earlier, won boat races in the Formula Vees at Tsukuba. Make sure to go back and watch that one if you did miss it, folks. A cracking heat 2 there. You'll definitely like to feast your eyes on. He's down in 11th, cut back towards one of his European counterparts in the form of Peter Zuba, who's still just waiting to eat the boat. European Jaws is just biding his time.
Yeah, I mean, you can still hear the theme in your head right now, actually, and the folks at home. It's Jaws 2, isn't it? Because this is after the first Jaws got blown up in the face and a bit has some scarring. But Peter Zuba is still really reeling in. Blainat just can't get by him at this point, because if he tries to go offline, he might run the risk of sliding off and let Soriano back through to P3, just biding his time. And likewise, up in front, the Karma also is biding his time. He's just letting everyone come in. Meanwhile, in the pits, Leitner, not sure what tires he's going on, but if he's going on dries, that is absolutely ballsy.
Yeah, it's way too early. The draw on Blainat, who has had a spin heading through turn number 4, and it's unfortunate for him because he's dropped out. Oh, the whole back of the car has just fallen off. Significant damage for Juan Blainat now. He's going to have to pit to get that fixed, surely. It looked like he'd survived the spin, and then the back of the car unfortunately just fell away from him due to that incident with the barrier. And the number 89, who was having a great race, has unfortunately spun heading through turn number 4. That'll promote Petr Zuba to 2nd and Tobias Soriano to 3rd.
Yeah, and that Porsche 963 now looks more like a Delta Wing that ran in Le Mans quite a few times in the recent past, as opposed to being a proper IMSA GTP. But with that out of the way, that gives Petr Zuba a real big chance here to just come after Bruno De Carmo. Now Bruno De Carmo can't rest as easy as he was prior to this.
Jaws is coming. No, he's not. He's in the pits. Petr Zuba comes into the pit lane just for his mandatory pit stop, as Bruno De Carmo and Tobias Soriano will carry on. Juan Blainat comes into the pits as well, presumably for a repair of some sort to give himself some downforce. It looks kind of like the Peugeot or the Peugeot Le Mans prototype from not this year, last year. Zuba just coming in for the mandatory stop, surely staying on the wet tires. I don't know why he'd go to slicks at this point.
And a quick repair for Blainat as well, so that saves his bacon. Literally, he just came to the pits, the rear wing's back on, and luckily though, they do have the one quick repair option here. Blainat's used that to full advantage, but he knows full well if he has another one, he may not be so lucky, as we can see what happened to him just a lap ago. How he just ran onto the curves. Yep, ran onto the AstroTurf, and a bit of the paint sends him spearing into the barriers.
Yeah, just touched the puddle and went round for Juan Blainat, and unfortunately got a full taste of the Armco on the outside of turn number 4. Similar to where Charles Leclerc crashed in Formula 1 this weekend in practice, and then you see the whole back of the car falling off, unfortunately, there for him. He had to get a service on his Porsche 963 LMDH machine, but he's back out on track. He's still in 5th place, which is not bad if you've had a spin in a service. I'm sure other drivers probably wish they were that lucky at the start of the race.
Yeah, something like Galvalero, his car was completely second-handed after that particular collision because his car phased through the barrier, lost the front end, lost the rear end. That was pretty much game over in terms of a positive result in this first heat, but make no mistake, he will come back stronger next time because he'll be starting further up. Meanwhile, we're not sure if this is going to be the net race lead though, because Bruno De Carmo and Tobias Soriano have not pitted yet. They're one of 3 drivers who have done so, and fastest track, in fact, make that 2 now because Dean's coming to the pits. But Soriano, 47 flat, fastest lap of the entire race. Looks as though De Carmo may not be resting easy coming to his mandatory stop.
Yeah, and on the last lap, Bruno De Carmo was a 48.3, Tobias Soriano 47 flat, and then of course Petr Zuba was in the pit lane, so he was in the 2 minutes. So we'll wait and see what he can do on his first proper lap after the pit stop. Pedro Dean comes in for his service, and he will leave just as quick. From Sao Paulo, Brazil, of course, is Pedro Dean. Finished 7th overall last season in AMX, so he's doing quite well this season as well. As Pedro Dean, he's currently 8th, so looking to match that with a similar result. This is Thomas Simon, who is going to hope Heat 2 goes a lot better than Heat 1 is.
Yeah, he'll be lining up right at the sharp end after this, as he can go for the full service. Or in fact, that's actually not much faster compared to the other guys. He's going really for full service. The car's up on his jacks. He's going to replace his tires, but that will definitely send him tumbling through if Tardini can get by him. Now back up to the front. De Carmo and Soriano really close to each other. De Carmo was faster that time in Sector 1, but Sector 2, 1.2 seconds faster. for Soriano. The Carmo is not liking this phase of the race at this point, Evan.
No, he isn't. Struggling a tad. He's led from the front the whole time, has Bruno De Carlo, but he's starting to come under a little bit of pressure. Peter Zuba is slowly clawing these guys in, and Bruno De Carlo comes into the pit lane. This is a crucial point in this race. We saw pit stops decided the race at the Red Bull Ring in Austria. Pit stops won't necessarily decide this one, but my oh my will they be a crucial factor. Bruno De Carlo comes into his pit box. It'll be the quickest service possible, mandatory service possible for Bruno De Carlo as he just passes Thomas Simon. He's in, he's out. Keep an eye on Peter Zuba. Where is he in regards to Bruno De Carlo? There he is, coming down the main straight in that red and black race clutch GTP, and it's going to be Peter Zuba who has pulled off the undercut and is ahead of Bruno De Carlo. Jaws has overtaken his next victim, and Bruno now has work to do on the fresh tyres if he wants to catch up to Peter Zuba.
But if there's any indicator from the previous stints when they were both prior to the pit stops, yes, I was about to mention that the Carmo has not been able to really grasp this phase of the race when the car has much lighter fuel load and tires that are probably not as grippier. So maybe they have not replaced that, they just topped a bit of fuel so that they could meet the mandatory requirements. But Peter Zuba really is in a class of his own. He is absolutely got a bit between his teeth. But we're still waiting on whether or not Soriano will live up to that particular phase of the race, as he is still up in front, hasn't made a pit stop yet, but still 10 seconds the difference, and well, in fact minus 10 seconds, he's actually closing in, so Soriano may be struggling right now.
Yeah, Soriano was 1.6 slower in the last lap compared to Peter Zuba, but I think he's made some sort of mistake on this lap because there was a really close deficit gain there for Peter Zuba, and he's going to be way ahead once Tobias Soriano comes into the pit lane, bearing no mistakes on his own accord. Lap 13 out of 18. It's been one of the longest races in AMX history, I would say, because of the wet weather at the start. Vamos, Tobias Soriano, we're seeing in the stream chat as well. Tobias just getting some rooting on from the stream chat as Peter Zuba, you can see there. Just look how much he's working the wheel. And someone has also just pointed out what finger he upshifts with. That is rather funny.
Don't watch that, kids. You can't really see that.
Yeah,
but
no more Peter Zuba face camera, please.
Or we might have to crop his camera a bit to avoid seeing his fingers.
Yeah, just tilt your camera up a tad, Peter Zuba. But no, it's just the finger he uses to upshift to the hands. Actually, that's oh, look at that slide through the corner. I was going to say, that's actually an interesting debate that I don't think we've ever had. Is it better to use your full hand upshift or just one finger? Because different drivers use different things. The producers are also going to see behind the scenes me pretending to upshift in my face camera like I'm holding a steering wheel. So I hope they enjoyed that laugh.
Well, I'm doing that right now actually with my wheel, and yeah, it's a subconscious thing. You don't really give it a second thought now, do you? But sometimes, yeah, I would use only two fingers on my wheel, but most of the time it's just literally however it's comfortable, and I wear gloves, so I don't really think too much about it.
Oh yeah, gotta wear the gloves. The gloves give you an extra 0.2 of a second. That's a known fact, definitely. Tobias Soriano, who's not wearing gloves, but certainly working the wheel for his hands, I should say, starting to struggle just a tad. He's actually extended the gap a bit to Peter Zuba, so that rapid increase, or that rapid decrease of the gap, I should say, by Peter Zuba isn't happening as much. It's over 10 seconds again.
Yeah, but the thing is, he might have stayed out a bit too long, because again, that total pit time that he will lose will definitely be dropping him not only behind Zuba, but he's also going to be dropping behind the Carmo, though he will stay ahead of Lena given the troubles that he had earlier. So we'll wait and see then. Lap times wise, 46.3, 46.8, so not much of a struggle here for Soriano, so he is actually in good nick.
He's probably raging at the fact that he has to make a pit stop and lose this gap as he laps Thomas Simon. So I'd say Simon is out to go for a fastest lap attempt. He's got a full repair on the car and fresh tyres, and he's going to try and pick up that extra prize for the fastest lap. Soriano is now gaining on Peter Zuba. That bit of motivation he received from the stream chat is helping him. The only thing I'm thinking here is, Amir, that track is drying up significantly. I wonder, could Soriano try the slicks for the last couple of laps?
Good question there, and in fact it comes to that final 5 lap period that we did say earlier will be the most crucial point. Is it crossover time, or is it the point where you should just stay on the tires that you had from the very beginning and just top it up with fuel? I think Soriano might be thinking of the latter. He's just that top up fuel, go with the same tires, and just bring it home to the end. As we can see, that was Norbert Leitner coming to the pits. He's the only other driver on the lead lap. As someone did actually point out earlier, why the names are in blue. Well, they've been lapped, so that's why they're gonna not be on the same lead lap as the rest of these guys. As Soriano, ooh, going very, very narrow there. That's the sort of line you want to do, because if you go wide, you might run the risk of running into the runoff.
He's going to have to come to the pits at some point. He's going to come into the pit lane now, is Tobias Soriano. He will lose the race lead, but what can he gain upon exit? He will fall behind Bruno De Carmo here, I think, as well. Bruno will get in front, but Tobias is going to try his utmost best here to keep with the top two. Here's Peter Zuba, rounding through turn number 14. Here at the Hungaroring, he will take the race lead ahead of Tobias Soriano. Where will Tobias come out in relation to Bruno De Carmo, though? Because although Bruno led the opening half and a bit more of this race, it seems like Tobias and Petter just have better pace. He's right behind them, actually. He's really close. As Bruno De Carmo runs a little bit wide, Tobias has to get that car back up to temp and get the power back down, get the confidence back in and get into the groove with those new tyres. But he's only 2 seconds behind. There could be another change for position.
Well, let's see then as the race comes into its crescendo in the final 3 laps here. But again, we did point out earlier how Zuba was just so quick in that middle phase of the race that it really helped him out a lot. Though for Soriano, it's not all lost here. He can still at least get second place from De Carmo, because his lap times have not been so spectacular compared to Zuba. As you can see, they're 5 times of a second. Don't mind Soriano's time, because he was in the pits prior to that, so it will be a non-factor at this point. We'll have to see the next lap when he can get up to speed again. But as you can see, the different driving styles through that chicane alone tells you that De Carmo is not really feeling it in these conditions at this point.
No, he isn't. He's struggling a lot here, is Bruno De Carmo, and he's lost a second already to Tobias Soriano. We'll have 2 laps after this one, 17 and 18, where Tobias Soriano might just be able to pounce on the Brazilian in front of him. It was De Carmo's race to lose at the start. Then Peter Zuba had that monster middle stint in the wetter conditions of the race. Tobias Soriano is just slowly gaining. Remember, folks, this is not the end of the action. We have a full another heat coming up, another half an hour or so of racing for you to enjoy. And we will enjoy that one indeed. David Todt, look at the pressure Juan Plainat. Considering the start of the race David Todt had him here, it's really not been a bad comeback by him.
No, sirree, he really has rebounded big time after the drama that he was involved in, especially at this point in the circuit, incidentally, where we got drama before the race started, but he's recovered well. He's on the lead lap, and he's at least on here for a very strong top 5 finish. Yes, he had to qualify right at the back. He had to start at the back because, of course, he was our pole setter, or rather, fastest time setter in qualifying. But make no mistake, the drive that he had to pull off through that has been admirable, and he can at least finish off here with a final flourish.
Yes, let's see. Heading in towards turn number 3 is David Todt. We need to keep an eye on that gap between De Carmo and Soriano as well, but it's actually just sat at a second. So I think Soriano might be struggling once he gets into the dirty air. We saw that earlier with Juan Plainat and Peter Zuba. Once Zuba got within that second, he just wasn't able to get past the Argentine, despite having a clear pace advantage. And you can see Todt just taking a slightly different line to Juan Plainat. David Todt won in Austria. He is the current championship leader, so he knows how to make an overtake when he needs to. Now is one of those times, really. He'd like to take 4th place in this race after being the quickest in qualifying and being involved in those early incidents. He'd still gain a whopping 10 positions if he could get in front of Juan Plainat. Best overtaking opportunity for him, probably the first corner.
Yep, and that will match, actually, incidentally, the first 2 guys. They've gained 10 positions, and if he goes into 4th, that will be 10 as well. And the biggest losers are also drivers who drop 10 positions. So complete symmetry from 2 halves of the entire field. But yes, as you pointed out just now, as you said, the first corner may be his best chance here. If he could get a good run out of the final turn, as we can see, Norbert Leitner's woes have gone from bad to worse here, spinning. Luckily, he didn't get collected by, I think that was, or can't see that might be Lorente coming through. But whatever it is, no, it was Demori. So coming across the start finish line then. He didn't get a good run though. He might be thinking about it somewhere along the lap here, Evan.
And Tobias Soriano's made a mistake because he's lost 2 seconds, 2.6 even, and he's out of the battle for second. So there's been a mistake somewhere along the lap from Tobias Soriano. The only remaining battle here on the final lap of heat number 1 of race 32 is between Juan Plainat and David Todt. And Todt is sliding in the braking zone, just looking to try and get out of that corner. It's still very wet here. I don't think slicks would have been the tyre to go for. Definitely think the full wets, or sorry, the wet tyres. It's the F1 terminology kicking in. The wet tyres are the ones to go for. David Todt is a man who likes longer format races, of course. Had a successful endeavour with Drago Racing at the 6 Hours of the Glen for iRacing. He likes this longer format here as well. Wow, that's a massive wobble. But I think there's only one man who our attention can point to here upon conclusion of heat number 1, and what a middle stint this man will be remembered for. Newly nicknamed Jaws, because of the way he can just pounce upon mistakes from drivers and the fact he is a natural in the wet. He took to the wet weather today like a duck taking to water, and Petr Zuba will be remembered for a fantastic Heat 1 here in race 32. Rounding the final corner in his race clutch Cadillac GTP machinery, it's Petr Zuba who wins the opening heat tonight, and he'll look to bounce back in Heat 2 and go back to back. Here in the battle for fourth, David Todt, is he going to have a last minute dive down the inside? Oh, it's so close. I think Juan Plainat's just got it. He has. Zuba hits Todt, I should say, hits the wet patch. Juan Plainat will come home in fourth. Dramatic at the end.
Yep, it was a bit of a slow burner towards the end after the pit stops because it did spread the field out. But regardless, we had a good battle between De Carmo and Soriano and Plainat and Todt in 2 different groups then. But what an amazing first heat. And yes, it's only just the first heat. We still have more of the same here if the rain decides to make a second appearance.
Yes, we could have the chaos come right back again, and that would be welcomed, I think, by those at home, because the opening heat was intriguing, to say the least. There's Norbert Leitner, one of the Hungarian drivers, coming home in 7th. A disappointing race maybe overall for the home faithful, but they'll be looking for a little bit better in Heat 2.
Indeed, and especially some of the other Hungarians who were trying to impress in front of their Magyar crowd. I think Zuba is not one of those Hungarians. He might be a different nationality. I'm assuming it's Polish, but we'll probably get some confirmation in the chat below. As we look at the other drivers with recovery drive, one of them was Galblero. He was in the barriers at the start, coming across the line in the top 10, and still just ahead of Simon De Mori. We're waiting for the other drivers to finish, but make no mistake, Zuba was the class of the field here with his wet weather run that was unbelievable, especially in that middle phase.
Yeah, there's Jared Sedeni just bringing home without a rear wing, so something's happened to him as well. But here's a full confirmation of your race results. A confirmation of Petr Zuba as your BenQ session winner, as Bruno De Carmo comes home in second, 7.6 seconds behind, and then Tobias Soriano. So something really went wrong for him in third. Juan Plainat in fourth, David Todt in fifth, out of Pedro Dean in sixth, Norbert Leitner in seventh, out of Jackson Mersenje in eighth, Kyle Valero in ninth, with Simon De Mori in 10th, out of Gaston Kulhavi in 11th. It was Ruben Lorente Jr., Jared Sardeni Jr., and Hamas Simon, who unfortunately finished 6 laps back. Petr Zuba took a clean sweep in that one. He took the fastest lap award as well.
Yep. And apologies to him as well. He is Hungarian, so that is an upside for the Magyars. He managed to claim one for the Hungarians here, so a home win for him. That really does set him up quite well.
Yeah, home win for Petr Zuba, so we actually have a lot of Hungarian drivers on the grid tonight. I wonder if they're just racing as it's their home track. But Amir, if you like wet weather, unfortunately we don't have any in this heat, but it looks a lot drier.
Well, that is a bit of a shame, but again, it might just make an appearance towards the end. You'll never know, especially given how it's still wet in some places. So, fingers crossed for more of the same, or for the drivers. Those who really didn't like the wet may wish for the sunshine to stay all the way.
Here's your grid then. It is Tamas Simon who starts on pole ahead of Jared Sardeni Jr., then Ruben Lorente Jr., Gaston Kulhavi, Simon De Mori, Gael Valero, Jackson Mersenje, Norbert Leitner, Pedro Dean, David Todt, Juan Plainat, Tobias Soriano, Bruno De Carmo and Peter Zuba. It's looking like we're not going to have as many dramatics heading through this final corner on the second formation lap here for heat number 2, and Thomas Simon will bolt out of the final corner here in the Hungaroring as we go racing in Hungary. Gerard Zedeni Jr. immediately under pressure from Ruben Lorente Jr. down towards the first corner. Simon Demori and Gaston Kilhavy side by side in the background as well. There is a bit of spray heading down towards this first corner. Oh, in towards the first corner goes Juan Blainat, and he hits the back of Norbert Leitner Jr. And there's another car in towards the side. It is chaos. David Tolt involved in that one. Norbert Leitner and Juan Blainat with damage and way down the order.
Oh, that was almost a carbon copy of what happened in 2021 when Bottas wiped out a few drivers that time. But in this particular case, Blainat went spearing into the back of Bruno De Carmo, and De Carmo is now missing his rear end, so he's going to have to make his mandatory stop early, while we saw Blainat got finished off there by, I think, Pedro-Team because it was one of the white cars. Either way, chaos at the start, but luckily, though, this time it's at the first corner rather than before the green flag waved.
Struggle here for Ruben Lorente Jr. It seems he's fallen 2 seconds to Thomas Simon. Dive down the inside from Gerard Zerdeni, or sorry, from Simon Demori on Gerard Zerdeni. There's some trouble there for Jackson Mersenje. He lost the rear wing, and that's actually Gaston Kilhavy in the 9 car that has spun round. So Kilhavy will drop to the back of the field. He's got to be careful with a rejoin, and there goes Ruben Lorente all over the curb. They're heading through turn number 11, and he's fallen down to 5th place. Demori, Valero and Zerdeni all gaining spots. Simon Demori up 3 spots to second. One of your biggest gainers in the opening lap. Tobias Soriano, Bruno De Carmo and Peter Zuma all gaining 5 respectively. Here in the picture-in-picture, with the start incident, a bit over-ambitious by Juan Blainat.
Yeah, and I think he got a bit too not so circumspect in that particular regard, because he thought, okay, track's a bit drier compared to the first one. As you can see, Dean finished off Blainat right there, but it is comparatively drier compared to the first heat. Though again, you just have to watch your braking points, and on slick tires in the drying track, that was something that Blainat didn't keep in mind, and unfortunately that compromises his tire race, while Bruno De Carmo is still going on without the rear wing and the rear assembly altogether.
Yep, he's continuing on. He's not been given the meatball flag, as some people call it. He will carry on and look to soldier on with the walking wounded car. Thomas Simon under pressure from Simon Demori. He's defending nicely in towards turn number 5. Demori gonna get creative. Took 2 wins so far today. Unfortunately not an AMX 20, but an AMX 0. So Simon Demori knows how to win races, knows how to produce overtakes like we saw in Tsukuba, knows how to defend the first position. But this is a different ball game. This GTP's at the Hungaroring, not Formula V's at Tsukuba, so you're going to have to get creative, especially to pass a very quick driver who has got the backing of the home crowd.
Indeed, the virtual home crowd, and the fact that for Simon Demori, he is actually in a much faster V, albeit a VAG-owned car, which is the Porsche 963, as opposed to the Formula V cars. As we can see, that was Sardini going off there. Luckily, he didn't get collected by anybody. And we kind of noticed something. It's the battle of 2 Simons at the front. One is a first name, one has a last name.
Yeah, it's Simon squared at the front of this one. Simon in the lead, and Simon in second place. But actually, Thomas Simon has lost the race lead there. It's actually Simon Demori who's ahead. So while we were just looking at one of the incidents, a Gerard Zerdeni spin to be exact, Simon Demori now leads, and he is in the Porsche. So he's changing that 70 brake horsepower to 670.
Yep. So 75 to 670, it's quite a jump, but it looks as though he's not fazed by it. And speaking of being overhauled, that was actually not the Carmo that we thought was losing the rear end. It was actually Jackson Resende who got wiped off. So one of the Tony Kanaan cars is compromised, so Team Motors at play there to go by us. Here we can see in the inset what happened between Simon Demori and Thomas Simon. Oh, that was Thomas just going a bit wide. And onto the AstroTurf. He didn't want to get on the power too early, otherwise he would have spun into Demori's path. So he played it safe, but at the expense of losing a position.
Yeah, Demori grasped that invitation to the overtake party and definitely didn't decline it. Here's Peter Zuba bouncing over the curb, looking to get past Ruben Lorente. He's ahead of David Tutt, the current AMX 20 championship leader, by 3.9 seconds. He's just looking to get through one of the slower cars, let's put it although, I mean, when you win the first heat, everyone's technically a slower car. So there you go. Gael Valero under pressure from the bright yellow Tobias Soriano. Gael looking to recover from a poor heat 1. Maybe not due to his own fault. He picked up significant damage before the race even started. Not too much he could do. But currently on the podium, 5.7 behind Simon and Simon. He's into the pit lane for a mandatory stop.
And Zuba too. So Jaws follows him here as the Frenchman and the Hungarian go into the pits, leaving the two Spanish-speaking drivers going onto the track. Lorente and Soriano go at it here.
Yeah, this is going to allow maybe a little bit more of a buffer for Simon Tamori and Hamas Simon if these two start scrapping, the number 3 and the number 14 respectively. You can see Tobias Soriano in the Porsche and Ruben Lorente Jr. in the BMW. So slightly different cars. The Porsche with a multi-max chassis, of course, and it actually won the Daytona 24 this year with Joseph Newgard and Felipe Nasser at the wheel. Tobias Soriano at the wheel now and driving just as well as those folks did. Simon Tamori up the front, though, is reminding me of a certain Peter Zuba. It is a red and black car that is dominating in the Hungaroring.
Yep, and it's a driver that we saw just now who did the business in AMX 0 at Tsukuba, so no surprises that another car of the same ilk up in front in terms of colors leading the way. Though, again, this is before the pit stops. Let's see what that will entail after this, because he's still out in front. And despite all the stuff that's been happening in the first couple of corners, we're only still on lap 4 out of 18, would you believe it, Evan?
Yeah, we still have a long way to go. Plenty more action for you folks at home. Simon Tamori just had the one evening win in Season 4, took 3 session wins. Would have got an evening win for AMX 0 because he did win both races. He'd love a session win here in AMX 20. Peter Zuba overtaking Peter Dean, but the battle we're looking at is Gael Valero and Norbert Leitner. Oh my goodness me, Norbert Leitner almost running up the gearbox of Gael Valero, and the Season 4 champion would have been furious if that's how his AMX 20 evening ended, but it didn't. Leitner was just a centimetre back, and they both survive.
And yeah, how ironic. Oh, in fact, I think we might have lost him there because Leitner was actually sliding, and yes, he did lose a position to David Toff, his fellow countryman. He's lost it. I did see just now that the car was a bit out of shape, and yeah, there you go, case in point, how he just lost it and loses every single position that he had gained all the way up, all the way now to P14 and lost.
That's a US office cutaway by the directors. That was one of those perfectly cut moments, kind of like the Lance Stroll thing from Monaco a few years back. But unfortunately for Norbert Leitner, he is the butt of our slightly poor joke, and he's down to 14th position now and last in this AMX 20 race. But the reason he is someone trying to self-advertise something in the comments. The reason he is in last is actually because of how close this field is. There is it's a lot closer than the first heat. Here we go. Is the Leitner spin? Just lost it all on his own.
Yep, it was a half spin. Luckily, the grass actually did point him in the right direction and a touch of the barriers, the tire barriers in this case, but it did not do anything to save his particular race because now he is actually out of it completely. He's parked it.
Disappointing for Norbert Leitner, one of the home drivers, who unfortunately will play no further part. This is David Todt, another one of the home drivers, flicking it around the outside of the chicane. Oh, Juan Blainat, or Gael Valero, I should say.
Yep.
This is first and second in the championship, scrapping for 9th, which goes to show how competitive it is here this evening. But I tell you what, that's not a traditional overtaking place for a GTP car around this circuit. That's impressive from Todt.
And certainly not something you would get to do on Gael Valero quite often, because we know how much of a hard charger that guy can be and how not easy it is to overtake him. But Valero just got done here completely by Toff in the most unorthodox way, and that would to be a psychological win if we were counting championship stakes for David Toff.
Yeah, looking to extend his championship lead over Gael Valero. He's a healthy enough lead heading into this week anyways. 338 points compared to 224. And then it was Marcos Saavedra who was right behind them two. And of course he's not racing here this evening, is the Argentine. So it's going to be a healthy championship lead for David Todt as it stands here in the first season of AMX 20 in Season 5 of the AMX Sim Racing World Championship. And Gael Valero going to pick up the performance, unfortunately, if he wants to try and outscore David. Top 5 not yet pit. Everyone else below that has, meaning Petter Zuba is currently the leader of the pitters. Guy over there, of course, came into the pit lane just in front of him, which goes to show how quick Petter has really been. He is looking to overtake Gaston Kilhavy now. Fastest lap in the race, though, goes to Simon Demori.
Ooh. Yep, I was about to mention about Simon Demori, but then Soriano comes in with the fastest lap. I was about to say whether or not Zuba can actually still pull off a double here if he plays his cards right, and part of that equation is taken out for him because Kulhavi's in the pits. Now he's got a clear road in front. Can he actually pound in the lap times to reel in the guys who have not stopped yet and take the net race lead?
He's got clean track in front. He's got about 4 seconds of it to Ruben Lorente. Got to make this one count and pump in some quick lap times as Gaston Kilhavy came into the pit lane. Here in the picture-in-picture is the Norbert Leitner Bruno De Carmo incident. It's a push and a shove for Norbert Leitner. I think he just completely missed his brakes and then straight into the wall. That's what has him out of the race.
Oh yeah, we thought he parked there, but he tried to overtake the Brazilian. Went onto the wet part, which still has a lot of standing water. Yeah, and a lot of on a drying track, yes, but still there's some standing water with slick tires. It was just no go. He had no purchase whatsoever.
Yeah, so that puts him as the only man currently not on track and out of the race. And unfortunately puts Bruno De Carmo way down the order as well. He's currently 13th and 1.1 seconds off Jackson Resenje and a lap down as it stands for him. So he will have to just put in the lap times and try and pick up the pieces. Tobias Soriano is catching Thomas Simon. Simon not lapping as quick as he would like. Let's see as he crossed the line. It's a 1:34.9. Oh wow, he's actually quicker than Simon Demori in this lap. Okay, he was 2 seconds slower than them on the last lap. He's now quicker than them both. So there goes my point.
Well, again, it's just ebbing and flowing, isn't it? It's depending on how well you can drive in the drying conditions. And speaking of that, Lorente went off onto the runoff area on the way to pit lane. So luckily though, he got the power in already, otherwise the car would have spun in pit lane. That would be a rather embarrassing situation. But Lorente gets into his pit box and ready to get serviced here. Meanwhile, back to Thomas Simon, still 5 seconds behind Demori, but we can't see right now in this first sector how fast he's catching or losing time, because it's only about 200ths of a second.
Yeah, we're looking at Thomas Simon now as he lost a little bit of time in that first sector, as Amir said, but nothing really substantial. Just maybe might have got the power down a second later than Simon Demori in front. These three yet to make their mandatory pit stops, the only three to do so. And I tell you what, we're still not even halfway through this race, so still plenty of time to go for this to all change.
Indeed. And, well, keeping an eye on the gap here. So this particular lap, at least, Thomas Simon is losing time to Demori, so it is clear cut right now coming up to the third sectors. Meanwhile, Soriano is gaining on Demori this particular instance. So, again, as I said earlier, it's just ebbing and flowing at this point. Nothing really too substantial until the pit stops start coming in. Then we can see a change for position. But the track is dry enough now. If those guys are on dry tires, maybe they can keep it all the way to the end and just push it here, because guys like Zuba might be licking his lips if he has a sniff of an opportunity.
Yeah, there's no real spray in front. Would you say, Amir, now it's probably a good time to be on the slicks?
Well, if these guys were on the slicks to begin with, then they're actually in good nick right now, because they can just take it all the way to the end. But how much have those slicks been taking a beating from the wet to the dry, the wet to the dry? They might be absolutely shot by now. But if those guys who are up in front are in this position, they might just bank on using the slicks, top up with a little bit of fuel and just go to the end. So it will be a good move for a lot of these guys to just stay where they are in terms of strategy.
Fastest lap of the race actually goes to Gael Valero with a 1:34.2. That means we're lapping about 12 seconds-ish quicker than we were in the last race, so it's definitely dry. Someone asking, why is the Porsche engine cutting off? I don't know. It kind of just does that, really. Amir, you might have a more technical answer than I can do.
I'm going a bit pedantic on this. It might just be because the way iRacing is programming, it sounds like in actual onboards. If you hear actual in-car onboards, sometimes you can hear the engine cut up because the microphone gets crackly when they're picking up vibrations or the cars are going through rumble strips and everything. iRacing probably are just simulating that here for the Porsche, and certainly maybe for some of the other cars, but I think the BMW and the Cadillac sounded fine in our ears. Maybe it's just the case. In fact, we can hear it now.
Let's have a listen then. This is Daffy Todd attacking Gaston Gilhavy. Let's ride on board. Sounds fine to me.
I think it might just be a bug that we picked up that maybe iRacing will put in the next patch.
Yeah, it's not something unfamiliar for iRacing to have a couple of bugs. That's not something unfamiliar either. It's David Todd making the move look fairly simple.
Yeah, and on Gilhavy, who again we saw him having a couple of spins, he's really not been liking these wet conditions, so he's not exhibit this type of driving prowess in the wet weather that maybe some Argentines before him have done, like the likes of Carlos Reutemann or Juan Manuel Fangio. But at least he's still in that top 10, so at least there's some consolation for him in this regard.
Yeah, was second overall in AMX Season 2 was Gaston Gilhavy. He picked up a very healthy prize. Unfortunately, couldn't quite get second last season, but still got fourth, so I wouldn't be complaining about that one. He's looking to just pick up a few good results here this season and maybe get to those lofty heights in the championship once again. This is Juan Blenat who we're looking at. He's attacking Pedro Dean. Thankfully, a lot less slides for Blenat this time in the dry conditions as opposed to the wet. If you missed heat number 1, Juan Blenat unfortunately had a bit of a crash at the exit of turn number 4, entry to turn number 5, and hit that Arco barrier on the left-hand side. But it's been a much more smooth heat, maybe, here in this one compared to heat number 1 for him.
Yeah, a much more rudimentary race, I would say, for Blenat. But in terms of results, maybe that's not what he would have aimed for. But the top 5 still on the cards here. 4 tenths of a second between himself and Pedro Dean as Zuba gets the fast lap race. So he's definitely reeling in the guys in front, though the gap still stays around 18 seconds as Blenat comes onto the start-finish straight now. In the slipstream of Pedro Dean. Dean sees him, goes onto the inside. Maybe he can try around the outside. What a dive!
It seems almost like Dean lifted, let him through. I'm not too sure why, but a large overspeed for Juan Blenat, and he is up and ahead in 5th place. Pedro Dean down to 6th. Juan Blenat qualified 5th, I believe, for the first heat. Then, of course, we reversed the grids and had that dramatic first heat. He's back up to 5th here now. Fastest lap of the race, Pedro Zuba 33s. Would I be right in saying it was a 31.9 pole position? So we're getting close to quicker hot laps as time goes on.
Yeah, but the track condition ain't exactly 100% rubbered in. It's still relatively green if we're gonna use racing phraseology at this point, because yes, we can still see the lap times improve, but it will not be as good as compared to what we saw in qualifying. So yes, it's definitely conditions for slick tires, though you still have to be careful because look at the curves, especially through the second to last corner. There's still a lot of standing water there. You do not want to run the curves too much, like for example here, or even here. Look at that, there's the standing water right there. Just avoid them to avoid the spin.
Yeah, that second to last corner, as you mentioned, is a bit of a trouble zone for some. We're seeing a lot of drivers run deep, and you can see there the puddle on the middle of the apex of that corner. Gaston Gilhavy just breezed through. Gael Valero, though, certainly picking up the pace that he was in the wet conditions, maybe better in the dry. You can look in towards this final corner, you can see just all kind of running a little bit deep there. That could be the line as well. Some creative racing lines from some of these iRacers that you do see from time to time, but in this battle for ninth, it does seem like Gael Valero is slowly clawing in. Dirty air definitely having some effect on the racing here, I think, for Hungaroring.
Indeed, and the fact that these cars are not as aero dependent as comparing to the old LMP ones, but they're still producing some wake turbulence at the back that might be a bit difficult to run through, especially when you're running much closer than, say, 5 tenths of a second. You might start feeling some aero wash compared to the Formula Vee cars that we saw just now, where literally you don't have to worry about wings at all. You can still follow closely. Though having said that, everyone seems to be closing up on each other, just latching onto it, getting some really good racing here, especially now looking at Dean and Lorente as well as Gilhavy and Valero. So at least there's some action towards the closing stages of this race, Evan.
If I know Formula Vee drivers, teams, mechanics and personnel, the only rings there were better off the chicken kind, where every single wing what needs to be centimetre perfect at whatever degree angle here in these GTP cars for it to work. 13 out of 28 out of 18 here in heat number 2, final heat of AMX race 32. And don't worry folks, the drama's not over just yet. We have 3 drivers still yet to pit. That is Simon de Mori, Tomás Simon and Tobias Soriano. And you can see here Gael Valero just pressuring Gaston Calhavi. So still plenty of racing on the cards. Biggest gainer in the field, that's of course the fabulous Jaws Peter Zuba, who's up 10 spots to 4th, but still 16.3 seconds off Tobias Soriano, meaning I think Simon de Mori might get in and out before Peter Zuba reaches him.
But though, as we can see, Lorente now gets by Dean. Remember, the pit stop delta is about 19 seconds here at least, because even with a touch and go, you still have to take that into account. So for the likes of Blainat, if he were to pit now, he will lose a boatload of position. If Zuba were to pit now, he will actually be behind Blainat. So that's how much the delta is in that pit lane. So I think De Mori, Simon and Soriano may not be resting so easy, because when they make their pit stops, they might have to keep a mental note of where Zuba is.
Here we go then. Tomás Simon is going to break the mould, and he'll be the first man into the pit lane. Keep an eye on Peter Zuba, because this could be close between the two. If Simon can get in and out before Zuba reaches him, that'll allow Simon de Mori to do the same. It'll be a very quick service for Tomás Simon. There is Peter Zuba rounding through the final corner now. Tomás Simon in the last pit box by the looks of it. He will be exiting now. There is Peter Zuba, you can see on the right hand side. Here is Tomás Simon. It's going to be very close between the red race clutch machine of Peter Zuba and the white of Tomás Simon. Peter Zuba hangs it around the outside and he gets the job done on the pit exit. Simon didn't have the grip, Zuba does. Tyres nice and toasty for Zuba. He's up to 3rd place, but now needs to get a hurry on if he wants to try jump Simon de Mori.
Yep, and he's aiming for the double, of course, so he's got a bit between his teeth here at this point. Soriano is his next on his target list, and look at that. That gap's just under the 16-second window, or at least I did mention just now 19 seconds. That was enough for Zuba to get by Simon. Now, let's see if Soriano will fall prey to this one.
Let's see, 15.6 between Zuba and Soriano, and then there's another 8.4 up the road. I think Simon de Mori might be okay here, but he cannot lose any more time to Peter Zuba. Zuba's kind of getting into the point where he was last race. He's just getting into that groove. And there we go, Simon de Mori's into the pit lane, so we're going to find out now how this one plays out. I think de Mori might just be okay.
Yep, he's within 24 seconds at least by our count based on the interval, so less than 24 seconds. Here we go then. This is de Mori coming to the pit lane, and by our guessing, it might be Soriano going through. Yes, he does. He's actually going to take the lead of this race by virtue of the fact that de Mori's in the pit lane. But watch Zuba in that inset. He's coming through the final corner, and it looks as though it's a slightly longer pit stop for de Mori, but it might just be enough to take him back into the net race lead.
Yep, he's okay. He's on pit exit, and Zuba is still hurrying down the straight. Zuba going to have a bit of traffic as well, it seems. A gap about 3.5 seconds now. So Zuba has still gained in the long run, but Simon de Mori, just like he was in Austria, is A-okay on pit exit.
Yep, and look at that. The net delta loss was about 20 seconds, because by our counting, it was about 23.5 seconds ahead. So 3.5 seconds, yeah, that's roughly 20 seconds lost during the pit stop when you're trundling about. And plus or minus the fact that he did have a slightly slow-ish pit stop, but the gap that he had was just enough to keep him at arm's length in front of Zuba.
So we're just waiting on one more pit stop. That is Tobias Soriano, who will be coming into the pit lane. Interesting to see where he fizzles out, because he's 12 seconds ahead of Simon de Mori, who is another 3 ahead of Zuba, who's another 1.6 ahead of Tomás Simon. So it'll be interesting to see, does he come out ahead of any of those drivers? I'm not sure he will, but we will await and see. He'll be the last man to come into the pit box this race. We do so now. He will indeed. Into the pit lane comes Tobias Soriano, so we'll see where he comes out. He'll be looking for a Tomás Simon pit stop, maybe not a Simon de Mori one, somewhat slightly longer.
Well, that was a rather suspiciously fast pit entry, because we saw previous guys when they come into the pits, they came to almost dead stop, but looks as though Soriano is trusting in his instincts that he can actually turn on the pit limiter almost at the death to keep him in within the legal limits of not getting a speed drive-through penalty. As he comes out now, Zuba's overtaking him.
Yeah, Zuba, and as has Tamas Simon. The picture there, not quite. Simon Demori, he's well down the road. Petter Zuba is ahead, so is Tamas Simon. So this could be a fight between Soriano and Simon. Remember, in the last race, Tobias Soriano was chasing a driver coming out of the pits in the latter stages, and unfortunately started making mistakes and wasn't able to capitalise on it. Can he make amends here in this one? Would absolutely love to. And he's in 4th right now. Would like a podium finish, methinks.
Absolutely, he would love to make up for the fact that he did miss out on that last time around. No, in fact, he was, but he had a bit of a, let's just say, tumultuous race to get up to that point, but he was happy with the 3rd place. Now he's going to go after it again, but will he like to upset the virtual home crowd here by taking a position away from one of the home favourites?
Currently 2 Hungarian drivers on the podium in the form of Petter Zuba and Tamas Simon. Zuba is slowly gaining, I should say, on Simon Demori. Their last laps... Oh, sorry, last lap for Simon Demori was the pit laps. He hasn't crossed the line yet, so won't be able to get a proper reading on that one. We will in a couple of corners' time, though. Be interesting to see the comparison. It's currently 3.8, which would make me think that Simon Demori was actually quicker, but now for the final corner he's gaining. So 33.8 now, Simon Demori. Let's see what Petter Zuba. 34.1. Demori looks good here, looks home and dry. Tamas Simon, the quickest of the 4.
Ooh, 33.7. So he might be a factor here coming to the closing stages of this race as we look at Soriano now chasing after Simon. He's under a second. Meanwhile, even closer than under a second, it's David Toff against Pedro Dean out of the final corner. This is between 2 similar cars then. It's a Cadillac versus a Cadillac coming across the line into the first turn. Look at the amount of slipstream that he's getting up to turn 1, and he's just gone by even so breezily because Dean, once again, really just so tepid coming into the first corner.
Yeah, David Todd didn't have to go for a lunge in the final lap this time round. He was able to get it done on the penultimate lap here. Tamas Simon is closing down on Petter Zuba. Oh, sorry, no, apologies. This is Tobias Soriano closing down on Tamas Simon. Tobias, fresh out of the pit lane, of course, was the last man in the field to stop. Bruno De Carmo has pulled into the pit box permanently, and he will remain there, I can imagine, until the end of this race. Current fastest lap actually belongs to Jackson Resenje, one of the back markers. So it goes to show that anyone can take the fastest lap of the race. Petter Zuba, much quicker on this lap round, but I think it's a bit too late to go for the race win.
Certainly, if he went hell for leather, he might still only be just coming short of that. So at least the race win, barring any calamities that happen to Simon Demori, that will be his heat race to win. But the battle for 3rd is really heating up, just under a second between Tamas Simon and Tobias Soriano. Fastest lap goes to Petter Zuba for this penultimate lap. In fact, going to the final lap. Let's see then, where would Soriano attack Simon? Because it looks as though he doesn't have any more opportunities left around this circuit to make a definitive overtake.
Yeah, it seems like it might. A bit wide for Soriano. That could be a mistake that costs him. And yes, he's losing significant time, just like the last heat. As Soriano is starting to get a grasp on a battle, he makes a mistake, and that's cost him some time. So it is looking like it'll remain Demori, Zuba, Simon, Soriano, which is disappointing for Soriano, but still a fantastic prize for him tonight, and some good points in the championship fight. He's picked up a couple of steady results, but Simon Demori looks home and dry here, and I tell you what, it's been a great performance by him. Wasn't too threatening in the first heat or qualifying, but he's gained 4 spots here tonight in the second heat and led comfortably against one of AMX's quickest drivers. Running for the final couple of corners now, the number 13, which is unlucky for some. It's certainly a lucky number for the Austrian driver of Simon Demori. It was only the 3 session wins last season for him, but he's picking up another career AMX session win tonight in AMX 20, race 33. It's Simon Demori who rounds the final corner to take the race victory. Happy as Larry is Demori. Zuba comes home in second. Another fabulous performance by him, and it'll be 2 Hungarian drivers on the podium in Heat 2. Tamas Simon comes home 3rd.
Yep, and that makes it 3 heat race wins that Simon Demori has gotten tonight. So he really was a man on fire here, and what a way to cap off the weekend with a convincing victory, despite Petter Zuba was actually closing in towards the end. But he was home and dry, proverbially. Simon Soriano laying out to complete the top 5 with both Argentines.
Yeah, they were home, maybe not dry, after the drama of the first heat, because it was certainly a wet one, but thoroughly enjoyable nonetheless. We'll get a full confirmation of your results soon, but it is Gerard Sardeni who just crosses the line now.
Yep, and in fact, there it is, the last of the finishes. Resende, though, he was holding the fastest lap at one point until Zuba got it under his nose. But regardless of that, 2 great races in AMX 20, and thanks to the changeable weather conditions, really gave us absolute barnstormers.
Yep, they did. Your BenQ session winner is currently not looking at his screen, but it is Simon De Mori who takes the victory by 2.5 seconds. Peter Zuba then in second, ahead of Tamas Simon in third, Tobias Soriano in fourth, Juan Blainat in fifth, Ruben Lorente Jr. in sixth, David Topt then in seventh, ahead of Pedro Dean in eighth. Gael Valero takes ninth, Gaston Kulhavi in 10th, Jackson Resenje in 11th, and it is Gerard Sardeni Jr. in 12th, Bruno De Carmo 13th, and Norbert Leitner in 14th position. And the fastest lap, of course, for this one, as Amir said, actually, would you believe he's done it again? David Todt took the fastest lap in the dying embers, just like he did in qualifying. So he finishes the evening just as it starts. But Amir, thoroughly enjoyable action tonight, I think. I'm not sure if you agree. Or actually, I think I am sure you agree, but what's your thoughts on that?
Wholeheartedly, yeah. Especially the fact that the wet weather came just surprisingly as the way David Toft took the fastest time in qualifying. It just came right on the noses, and certainly a lot of drivers got caught out in that first one, really provided a lot of the action in the opening stages. But then once everyone just sorted themselves out, get comfortable with weather, it spread out a bit. But then when pit stops came in, it was back on again, the action, where those drivers were gaining time in the pits all the way to the end. So that was Heat 1. Heat 2, just a bit more spaced out, but regardless, we had some good overtakes along the way, but deserving winners nonetheless for those guys who got it, especially Simon De Mori. 3 heat wins in one night. That's something to take home.
Yes, we're hoping to hear from Simon in a couple of moments' time, but first we're going to hear to the man of the hour, potentially, Petr Zuba, who managed to take the first heat win and then second in heat number 2. From Petr Zuba. First, Petr, can you hear me?
Yes, even I got you loud and clear.
You were an absolute monster in the wet conditions in heat number 1. I know you're a fan of GTPs. Are you a fan of GTPs in the rain?
Absolutely. It's such a good addition to iRacing. I really enjoy it. But it also helped that I practiced like 15 minutes before the race. When I joined the server, I saw there was going to be rain, so I thought it would make sense to just open and do some wet practice. It was really fun. I liked it.
To the folks watching at home then, what's your advice for wet weather driving? I know a couple of drivers struggling tonight, a couple of the spectators at home might be struggling. What's the advice from the master?
So the best thing to do is be very patient. Like, you really have to explore gently the limits. Try to be slow with the downshifts to reduce the engine brake, because it can make you really spin if the rears are on the edge. And try to be silver smooth with your driving, really. That's really the secret.
And then, of course, first in heat 1 for you, second in heat number 2. Are you happy overall with tonight's results?
Yes, a little bit bittersweet about qualifying, because I know I had the pace for pole, or very close to pole, but I just couldn't put it together. David and Tamas did a better job on securing the front row, but anyways, the races went really well, so happy with those.
Peter, thank you very much for joining for the interview. We're going to let you go and celebrate tonight's results, and a job well done. Congratulations.
Thank you, guys. Take care. Enjoy the rest of the weekend.
Next up, we're going to hear from Simon De Mori then, who we will be bringing in, of course, taking the heat win in heat number 2 of AMX, and of course taking both wins in the Formula Vees earlier. So a fabulous job by him. We'll be talking to him in a couple of moments. A man who denied Petr and Tamas Simon in the final heat with an impressive job indeed. Hello, Simon, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear.
3 wins tonight for you, 2 in AMX 0 earlier and 1 in AMX 20. Formula Vee or GTP? Which car?
I think I like the GTP better because it has some downforce and it doesn't just slide away under you when you try to shift down. But yeah, I had a lot of fun in the Formula Vees before as well, and yeah, just an awesome evening, getting 3 wins. I'm quite happy with that.
And then, of course, we had 2 Hungarian drivers on the podium in heat number 2. You being the only one who isn't Hungarian and taking the win. What does the villain role feel like, maybe, then? Is it nice to steal the win from the home heroes?
Yeah, it's nice to see the Hungarian drivers on the podium with me. While I was driving, like before the pit stop, I saw that Peter was catching up a lot to me. And I thought maybe he's gonna like work some kind of undercut on me. That's why I tried to go for the stop before the end. And yeah, when I saw him 3.5 seconds in the clear, that's pretty much when I knew I'm going to take home victory. But yeah, still was intense in the end not to make any mistakes.
Interesting you mentioned the strategy. Some weeks in AMX 20 we see hitting earlier being better, some weeks we see going later. Is that something the drivers plan before the race, or is it really a spur in the moment decision?
No, actually, when I got into the lead, I thought I'm gonna like keep it as long as possible and just stop like maybe on the last lap, the penultimate lap or something. But then when I saw Peter was catching up, I thought maybe he'll just pass me while I'm in the pits. So I opted to stop earlier to get out in front of him and be able to fight him on track.
Simon, thank you very much for joining us. Great to hear the insight from you, and congratulations on the 3 wins tonight. Fabulous racing from you across the board.
Thank you, man. Cheers.
Great to hear from 2. Then tonight are only 2 winners from tonight in AMX, would you believe? We will have results coming up shortly for you folks as we head back to Amir in the Hungaroring. Heading back to Amir. Great to hear from the 2 drivers. Amir, it seems like, although it's chaotic, all the drivers enjoy the wet weather.
Yeah, it seems so. Even though we had quite a few guys spinning, I think maybe 1 or 2 words about whether or not they could get their wet weather feet sorted, that one. But overall, yeah, it did provide excitement. And of course, the Tempest system in iRacing has really been well received across the board. We have never seen wet weather that accurately depicted in any racing game, and certainly this one's high up there. So that's why it's a pleasure for these guys to drive in high-powered cars in these wet conditions. It's just an absolute thrill.
We are results ready now for you folks, so we have a look and see who your winners were. It's an interesting one because, of course, we had 3 different session winners, but it is the fabulous Peter Tsukuba who we heard from, who takes the win. He picks up a $148 prize, ahead of David Toth in second with $124, and then the very sharp-looking Tobias Soriano in third with $88 indeed. Juan Blainats then in fourth, and Simon Demori in fifth, Thomas Simon in sixth, Bruno De Carmo tied for sixth with Pedro Dean in eighth, Jackson Versenje in ninth, and Guy Alvalero in 10th. David Toth in second, Amir, I suppose, goes to show how important qualifying is in these races.
Indeed, and the fact that qualifying awards 60 points for that, equivalent to $60, really shows that when you go chase for the money, it literally is the actual term, isn't it? It's just amazing how he just snuck it from right under the noses of everyone, including us in the commentary box. Apart from when you were looking at the timing screen, it really confirmed that, wow, he really timed it to perfection. So a well-deserved fastest time in qualifying, and he did well enough in the races to actually still be second overall in the top 10 list for tonight.
Yes, did a great job from David Toth to extend his championship lead pretty much in this AMX 20 championship. That, folks, is all we do have time for tonight, though. I say that's all we had time for. We had a sprinkle of everything. We had a slower car with a smaller track, quicker cars at a bigger track, rain, dry, chaos, drama, overtakes, defending, you name it, we have it here in AMX. And if you want more AMX action, make sure to check out all our social media channels, of course, as well as check out our title sponsors. A big thanks to all the guys behind the scenes who are working on those sponsorships and getting them in as well. Next week, you can catch us back at the usual time of 5:50 p.m. GMT here on the YouTube channel for 2 more excellent AMX 5 races on the Saturday and on the Sunday. You do not want to miss them at all. Season 5 has been great, but it's still going to get better right until the dying embers. From myself, Evan, and from Amir alongside me, thank you very much for tuning in. We do greatly appreciate your support. A big congratulations to all our winners, folks. We will see you soon. Stay safe, stay well, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.